It's coming through. All right, and we're live. Thanks everyone for this impromptu, and I do mean impromptu stream because we did schedule it, of course, but we've never seen the video. We don't know what the video is about. We're going in blind, and today I have just LiteratureDevil and myself looking at another Wit and Folly video defending the Star Wars sequel trilogy. A movie, the third one or the ninth one rather, is I still have not seen. I have yet to see it. It's been a month. I, the word I'm looking for is I don't care. I don't know.
I think
I,
that's the prevailing the feeling of everyone is that yeah, it's the ninth Star Wars movie, but I don't care. 'Cause people will just go see this movie because I don't know, they're really hardcore, die hard Star Wars fans. They just want something to do, or they're critics who need to see this movie so they can go make videos on it, or report on it, or write on it.
it's something like that. And honestly, after Episode 8, it's like my experience with Mass Effect 3. It's like I don't care what comes after it because it's probably going to be a piece of something that is has no creative value, has no artistic value, has no gameplay value, etc. Plus of what they did to that previous installment. So it doesn't motivate me. And yeah, eventually I'll get around to it as people are asking me, and it does seem sort of strange and bizarre that they could actually construct a a mess and why and how and et cetera, et cetera. And it's just funny. It's just entertaining to see the low level of appreciation they have for the lore. Because the lore in a space opera, let's just take, I don't know, The Fifth Element, is pretty whimsical. It's pretty non bolted down. You can do a lot of things with the lore. You can make aliens. You can make space magic. You could have a bunch of beings from outer space that are subservient to some supernatural power, and they
You
could.
can have a Hitchhiker's Guide where it's just he just kind of seems to make up things as they go along, just so they can
It's
make other points.
it's a magical journey that happens to use the science fiction genre, in this case, the space opera subgenre. All kinds of crazy writing, literary techniques you can do, and you can get through it. You can do a lot of things in science fiction you can't do in any other genre. And when you have an entire body of lore like the Star Wars franchise to work with, you can do almost anything. I mean, that's the great thing about it. You are confined by, the force powers and spaceships and all kinds of wonderful things. I'm talking here, Mr. HK47 for life. Stop giving me money, please. I'm having my soliloquy, going a nice expression of what it means to have a genre. But yes, I don't know how many wombs will appear in this video either. We haven't gotten there. That was just
I I can't wait either. I want to find out how many wombs.
that is going to be a surprise. I'm sure she's not going to go the sexual female route. She's going to go probably a little more different. Once
This is
again,
Wit and Folly.
yes,
This is a Wit and Folly, a video. I'm pretty sure that came after episode 9 came out. So I don't know how crazy she's gone since Raylo died.
it is. I think most people went nuts who saw this film. They just went, "What the hell was happened?"
They want to literally kill J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
They're
really?
sending him death
Oh,
threats
wow.
because these are the Raylos doing this because
Oh,
Raylo
yeah.
is dead. He killed
Okay.
off the possibility of Raylo, and
Yeah.
the Raylos are the actual toxic fans, not the pretend toxic fans, but the actual toxic
It's
fans.
always the fan slash fictions.
Yeah, it's always those the shippers, the shippers.
Yeah, it's always, even in Mass Effect circles. I mean, we're talking about the space opera genre, so Mass Effect, all the famous TV shows, Babylon 5, Star Trek, the big names like that. They're like, oh, what if Sheridan got involved with Ivanova? Or like, all this stupid slash fiction. And that's fine. It's fun, but it's,
But the
you know,
shippers take it one step more. It's not just what if this happened? Wouldn't that be cool? It's this must happen, or I'm going to rage, and just tell all these people that they're horrible and evil. Those are what I mean by shippers, the crazy, crazy ones.
yeah. So the way this video is supposed to go about is the title was originally, why did they? Well, sorry, the hero's journey is not complete. So I took that as another interpretation of the hero's journey. There are more monomyths out there, and Wit and Folly was going to take that. So the topic I thought was going to be about the American monomyth. but it's not. Apparently, she changed the title of her video.
It's something else now. I don't know what's going to be. I didn't look at this video. I'm
Right,
going to this blind.
right.
But I'm not really sure. Did she know that you're going to cover this video? Did you tell her?
I was surprised as anyone. Someone just mentioned to me in Discord. I was like, "What? There's another Wit and Folly. That's an event. We gotta watch that." So we are
Win
going.
Folly is by far my favorite. She's one of my favorite creators that we cover.
It
She's
is.
always fantastic.
It is
Always a journey.
incredible. She is absolutely amazing. She's not a critic, guys. This is very important. I
What she
call
calls
her a
she's an
critic.
artist, a creator, or something like
She
that.
is a content creator. Okay.
Yes, I think she gave it a more
She
artistic name.
she does not criticize. There's no critical analysis. There's no mental, acuity. There's no breaking things down. It's all creation. She's all being expressive and emotive. There's all kinds of feelings.
Yeah, when Smudboy said, "Hey, I found another Wit and Folly video," I'm like, "Yes, I'm on this. I will absolutely cover this.
Let me clear my schedule for you, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely."
Okay, so we're going in blind. I've never seen this. Let's get started, shall we?
So, before I tell you what I believe the myth of Star Wars is as of the end of The Rise of Skywalker, I want to first describe what it is not.
In his book, Campbell outlined his idea of the hero's journey that he had seen repeated in cultures throughout the world. The hero is the one who responds to the call to adventure. The stories often open with the hero appearing restless. Time for separation. Everyone needs a mentor to provide wisdom and magical power.
Reach out with your feelings.
The descent into
Does she really want to put that on there? That everyone needs a mentor, because that's a pretty bad aspect or element to put forth when you're talking about a movie that stars a character like Rey.
It's
She
hard.
likes Rey.
Well, that's
She
fine.
likes Rey.
I mean, if you're gonna quote the,
Oh boy.
hey guys, this is I just got a surprise fellow here who is another critical analysis person trying to watch this video. This is also another impromptu thing I just totally forgot about. And this is Mr. Shiney. How you doing, sir?
I am mistering on.
All right. Fantastic. I know I totally forgot to mention that. I know you're busy, and I was like, oh crap. But again, completely unplanned. So I do apologize.
We actually, I just did an interview with Mr. Shiney recently.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you
Very
released it
good.
yet, but
I have released it. I have indeed.
All right.
fantastic. It was fun. It was a fantastic little interview. I had a lot of fun.
Well, fantastic, sirs. I'm going to get that link and I'm going to post it in the comments, or rather the description at the end of the video. If anyone doesn't know, Mr. Shiny over here has been doing some, was it analysis videos or are they interview videos?
The interviews with people, like I've done Smudboy, I've done LiteratureDevil, and I've done Rags. And it's all about exploring objective criticism.
Well, what better person to have in this video when we talk about the monomyth of Joseph Campbell and all the parts that are completely optional, which I believe she's quoting right now, crossing the threshold, all these wonderful, potentially optional things to have in a monomyth. And fun to cover when she was talking about the heroine's journey, which
because last time she talked about the hero's journey, she started talking about the heroine's journey and how Rey isn't following the hero's journey. She's actually following something that she pulled out of nowhere called the heroine's journey that I have never ever heard of before then.
What's the what?
Are you okay there, sir? You seem to be coughing.
It's like what's the heroine's journey?
It's not the drug. It's not the actual.
Is it gender specific?
Yeah.
It's not the drug. It's a whole different journey.
Yeah, so basically what happened with Joseph Campbell when he was coming up with this idea, he had a class, he taught lectures, and people got inspired, and they made their own monomyths, they saw their own patterns, which is great, but they weren't caught on.
Just saying, I'm stuck at 0, 0, 0. So if we're at a different point, then you may need to readjust it on this. I know Watch Together doesn't always work properly.
Let me just hit play, so let's get going.
the underworld of
We're at 0041, so
Okay, yeah, I'm at the right point.
Excellent.
Looks like I jumped in just in time.
oh yeah, we didn't want anyone to miss this, so Here we go.
World of adventure, the point of no return, dreamlike labyrinth, tests and trials. To pass his initiation, the hero must become a dragon slayer. But the decisive ordeal of the quest.
Is this supposed to be echoing?
Hero
No. I don't think. I don't think that was his idea when he wrote a lecture and performed it. I need
I think
dragons.
it's more for dramatic effect.
Yes,
I think.
of course. No, Whit and Folly. She does a great job. All kinds of special effects and echoes and fades and other techniques that I don't even know that the names of that she does. It's great stuff.
confronts death. Challenged to follow the wisdom of his heart.
Use the force. Let go. Let go.
Up until The Rise of Skywalker, the entire Skywalker saga, all 8 films, were following an overall arc of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yeah, about that.
Don't think so.
Really
Overall
hard to
arc?
do that when you have Rey, who doesn't have challenges that are comparable to a character who is going on this journey of change. Doesn't really work.
She's a romantic. She's a romance heroine character type, not a hero's journey character type. She's already special. She's already has the love of everyone around her. She's already the special person
Right.
in the universe without having to work for any of it. Now, maybe the original trilogy, yes, definitely they followed the hero's journey. The prequel series, yes, you
The
can
hero's
say
journey
that,
of slaughtering little Padawans and
A-
younglings.
a quote unquote hero's journey. Yeah, he did develop over time. It's not nearly as well done, but the the sequel series, no, absolutely not. There is no hero's journey.
Right.
There's no journey of any kind.
There's no development.
There can be no development because she doesn't strive to do anything. She's already done. She's already completed her personality. She's perfect. There's a challenge that comes her way and she solves it. There's no need to grow. There's no need to. Who needs Luke? She doesn't need Luke. Luke doesn't come with
He
her.
beat up Luke.
Luke
He
doesn't
beats him
do
up.
squat shit.
She
He
doesn't
gets
need training.
defeated.
So that's
He
why.
whines a little bit. And he gets beaten up.
That's
what
why.
Luke
He
In,
tickles her with his stick.
that's why. That's why in the ninth movie, she has training, and everyone goes, "Why does she need to train already? We've gone through 2 movies where it's never been needed, and
She
now
needs to train to listen to the dead people that she shouldn't be able to listen to because they haven't learned how to become force ghosts.
I don't
still
know.
very-
It's a strange thing because usually you're presented with a problem. You go, "Oh, I can't surmount this," and this is a purely plot driven thing. Meaning that's all. It's like there's a door or there's a. I literally cannot jump over this hurdle. I gotta practice my jumping skill or whatever, and that's an obvious thing. And then you go to train, you buy new shoes, you find a trainer, etc. We're talking about the hero's journey. We're talking about the personality. We're talking about something inside of them that has to change for them to get past that hurdle. So it's not just a physical hurdle, it's a psychological one, it's a personal one. With Rey, there's nothing. There's no reason for her to grow and change, aside from accepting the fact she's alone in the universe and doesn't know who her parents are, which I think she's accepted in the 8th movie. She
In
kinda-
the first movie, she accepts that she's there. Like, there's this whole moment with Orange. Can't remember her name right now. And she's like, your parents are important, something. What your path is ahead. And that's the moment where she's supposed to get over her parents. But then Ryan, because everyone's obsessing with her parents or who they could possibly be, trying to explain why the hell she's so powerful. And then, because the fans cared about it, Ryan Johnson then started caring about it, like trying to work over the meta.
Well, the answer we got from Ryan Johnson wasn't exactly, I wouldn't say a careful inclusion into the lore. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, that doesn't matter anymore.
And nothing really matters in the 9th movie either. Nothing gets explained. But the one thing they do try to address in the 9th movie, and they do to
MacGuffin's
some
matter.
effect, is that in the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi, Rey is not really doing anything. She's really just being pulled along, just kind of being pulled from one event to the next. She's not doing what heroes do, is make decisions, make a critical acts, movements. They're not actually affecting the universe around them with their own decisions. How Luke did. She's just being dragged from one point to the next. And the ninth movie actually kind of overcompensated by they went from her being dragged along to her just randomly doing really stupid things, just taking the initiative at really stupid moments at the worst possible times to make her look brave slash foolish. That brave slash foolish thing that heroes have. Usually when they do it, though, it's more on the brave side. This is just dumb. She has no reason why she needs to brave gigantic waves to get to the Death Star wreckage in time. Because
the Falcon decided to break for no fucking reason. Like, if you look at that, there is no reason for the Falcon to break other than the fact that they can't the JJ doesn't want them to just to fly over to the Death Star, because that would what makes sense. It's like, so how do we make it so we can get over there with some kind of problem? It's like, oh, well, maybe the Falcon breaks. It's like, why do they even need to land there anyway? Just hover over the Death Star. Oh, wait, we need to be in that one specific spot to use the knife ruler.
The knife ruler.
That was really dumb. That was really stupid. I mean, that was dumb. Because the way they find the exact spot they need to go is they have to take this dagger that they found that was used to murder Rey's parents.
Whoa.
And the dagger was forged with a pattern inside the blade, so that if you match it up, oh no, it was not a pattern inside the blade, but it's like a little protractor looking thing.
Yeah,
a little protractor looking thing that comes out of the dagger for some reason, and use that to match it up with the exact skyline of the wreckage. And that's how you know where to go, because someone forged the knife that way.
After the Death Star had been blown up, not like the Death Star, apparently waves have not affected this thing at all. It apparently doesn't move.
Sure hasn't. And that not only did that thing come out of a dagger, that was a dagger used by an assassin. So what kind of assassin uses a dagger that so happens to double as a map? What?
So it's funny. None of it even needs to happen, because why is the space goo established? If you don't need to establish the space goo, because it's not something that's prior established. Random space goo.
Yeah, the movie's terrible.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the concept of landscape engineering with a dagger. It just doesn't.
It does not make sense. A lot of this movie, the stuff in this movie, does not make sense. But however, the thing that they do try to address is to make Rey more of a proactive hero rather than kind of a one that just gets dragged along like a puppet.
Once she gets dragged along, I would say things just happen.
Yeah.
So it's not dragging. They just happen around her. She just stands in the same spot. Like,
the universe revolves around Rey.
So yeah,
quite literally.
Yeah, if we wanted to have a proper hero's journey in the sequels, we'd have to look at the monomyth from Joseph Campbell and say, okay, does this actually line up? And I'm guessing it has the ideas of, that you gotta return to normalcy and all these other elements, but it's just not used the right way. It's like using a template and just knocking out all the walls of the template and say, oh, okay, well, now we're going to do our own thing.
She's missing a mentor. She's missing a mentor. People keep saying that what plot guy, that big fat guy she sold parts to, was her mentor because his hand appeared for one scene in a flashback. Come on. You're going to have to give me way more than that.
Yeah, well, let's keep going with her, what she thinks here, because it's always interesting to see how she applies these big monomyths to movies that might have used them.
Or what he also coined as the monomyth. Each film has this journey on a small scale. Each trilogy has this journey on a larger scale.
Sorry to pause it, but what is this music?
It's Wit and Folly's music. By the way, I've learned this the hard way. They will copyright strike you.
Yeah, they will.
The creators of this music will copyright strike you.
Yeah.
So just watch out for that.
So pizzicatos, pianos, yeah, it's gonna always be.
I made sure to use like Star Wars, like from Jedi Fallen Order, and even a little bit from Mass Effect, because I know they won't get copyrighted. And actually, they sound nice, but this one sounds so generic.
And the saga as a whole was going on this journey as well. But Campbell's contributions are much bigger than this.
Okay, so she's saying individual parts of the movies, the whole movies, and then the entire series from 1 to 9. I'm sorry, but the number of writers involved, and when George was removed, no. You would have to have some serious planning for this arc to even work. You can't just say, "Oh, there's 9 videos or there's 9 movies." Yep, that's totally hero's journey. Totally. There's you can see the like. No, you can't.
It's not the hero's journey.
You can't have a 9-arc movie set follow one hero's journey. There's like several protagonists. There's several antagonists. There's a series of secondary and tertiary characters. Which arcs? How do you connect those? What is he talking about?
At best, there'll be 3 hero's journeys.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. But we already agree that Whit and Foley's understanding of the monomyth for the sequels are a little broken because of this character called Rey who can do anything.
Do anything. Just break the entire Star Wars universe for political reasons.
Oh well, we don't know what reasons. It's hard to grasp sometimes.
Wheel. This diagram is a tool for young people and novices to better understand the patterns that are occurring in the stories. It does not fully represent...
Not experts, because, that's only the kids.
Although it is pretty true. The hero's journey is a pretty good structure to look at if you want to write a story. It actually works. You don't have to use all of it. You can pick and choose some things. You can get rid of some of the optional stuff. But it's a pretty good overall
if you
structure.
actually read the monomyth by or Hero of a Thousand Faces,
Hero of a Thousand Faces, yeah,
it's not an easy read. Okay, it's
pretty tough. It's pretty boring.
it's a very technical, very referential piece.
It's like a college textbook.
Yeah, when she said it's for kids, I'm like, ah.
This diagram might be for kids, but the actual Hero with a Thousand Faces book, not so much.
It's a bit.
How many kids write books?
Well, that complicated, that follow this 10-step process. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say.
I mean, outside the Marvel and DC universe, I'm not really sure.
I mean, you can do a hero's journey about a kid going to the supermarket. You can actually do that.
No, I mean, like she said, only this diagram is for kids, and it's like, well, what kids are going to be writing stuff?
If you're a novice at writing, here you go. Have fun.
Here you go, little kid. Here's this diagram for the hero's journey. Okay, do you know what an elixir is? Okay, little kid. You didn't. Did you look at the diagram? You didn't really get apotheosis, did you? You got this wrong. You got the apotheosis part wrong. You also mismanaged the partner atonement. Okay, you go back to your corner, get your crayons, and do it again.
Oh boy.
Isn't what Campbell was trying to teach. In Campbell's words, he described what he gave to the world as the key to the realm of the muses.
That's what I was hoping for when I was writing. Namely, that I was giving people the key to the realm of the muses, which is where myth is.
Upon receiving the Medal Honor for Literature at the National Arts Club in 1985, Campbell recounts shortly after what it meant to him to receive such an honor. Now it was Euripides who said, "The myth is not my own, I have it from my mother." And I think I can say, the myth is not my own, I got it from my students. Because they were all young women and were not interested at all in just who wrote the myth and what the date was. They wanted to know what it meant to them, what it could mean to the children they were going to have.
I was, by my female students, forced to consider the material from the point of view of the woman. And that point of view had to do with what does the material mean to life? What does it mean to me?
Campbell believed that the myth had an external application, but that the point of understanding how myths speak to us was the beginning of the journey into one's self.
And this is something that is really serious. Unconscious is unconscious. You don't know what's down there until you experience it by way of a projection.
Applying a mythic structure to...
Well, that's an interesting theory, but if it's unconscious, you have no avenue into it unless it becomes subconscious. And even that is arguably hard to find. That was one of the arguments against Freud when he talks about all these unconscious desires. Well, if they're unconscious, you have no access to them. And even if you say or you think you're experiencing them in the conscious world, you have no idea that they were previously unconscious or otherwise out of the blue. So, a little bit of psychobabble there, but I always hate it when people start talking about the unconscious mind and the unconscious world. It's like, okay, yeah, sure.
to our lives helps us to better understand who we are. It helps to center us and helps us to find our own path.
These two pairs of opposites come forth as male and female from the two sides. One has eaten of the tree of the knowledge, not only of good and evil, but of male and female, of right and wrong, of this and that, and light and dark. Everything in the field of time is dual, past and future, dead and alive. All this, being and non-being, isn't.
And what's the significance of them being beside the mask of God, the mask of eternity? What is this sculpture saying to us?
The mask represents the middle and
What?
the two represent
How did we get to this?
two opposites, and they always come in pairs. And
Oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
Here we
Oh,
go.
this is the force
That's
dyad.
where we get to the point. All
okay.
right.
Okay.
Where's she going with this? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, here we go.
Yeah, he started talking about the way the Pythagoreans think, where they see the world as two-sided. This is an ancient Greek mathematical group. So, and now he's talking that into mythology.
She's trying to tie this to Kylo and Ren.
This is
I mean,
really this is
Kylo
like,
and Rey.
like if you were to attend a university and you were to walk into a lecture hall and you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? It's really obscure. This is really, really subjective stuff. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, interpretive, weird dream stuff, which sounds flowery and right, but how do you connect it to something solid?
I can kind of get the rhetoric. I can kind of get his rhetoric with, these kind of two sides of one coin, which is the is and the isn't, the past and the future. I kind of give that part because it's cyclical. What is will eventually become what isn't, and what isn't will, nothingness might just evolve into something. Just out of nothing becomes something. It's biblical. It's all the way back to the most ancient of texts and stories. So that's what we get with the cyclical, and that's what we get the hero's journey. The hero's journey is a cycle. It's a circle. It's a ring. So I got that part. But then she throws in Kylo and Rey when he's talking about this, the duel, the two masks. And I was like, well, okay, how do they fit into this?
Yeah, that's not the idea of masks in the monomyth or even in Jungian philosophy. We're talking about the mask a person is wearing that is going to be removed or changed or destroyed or what have you. So they can make another mask. So they have a new persona. That's the point.
It's not literally two people.
No, it's not two people. That's kind of silly. And he's not talking about antagonists or protagonists or anything like that. He's just talking about masks. And it's like, yeah.
Just masks.
in the middle.
At the end of the hero's journey, which is essentially a journey to the inner self, and again reflects what all humans experience at various points throughout their lives.
Yeah, okay, this is a myth understanding, not an individual person. Hey, I'm going to the supermarket to buy butter and bread. I don't go on a mystical journey to do that. I face challenges. Yeah, I'm sure I do.
Well, you don't. Well, I think a Wit and Folly probably does. Every time she goes to the supermarket, I think someone like Wit and Folly goes to this.
That's a fulfilling life right there. That's
lifetime, life-changing event every time she goes down to the supermarket. So maybe it's her experience.
It's possible. We'll give her that.
The individual must bring back their newfound wisdom to the community, to their community. Not only is this the purpose of a myth, but it is an essential step in the myth.
It's not the purpose of a myth. That is crossing the threshold or the return to normalcy. That is a component of the monomyth, but you don't need it for the monomyth to work. The hero can stay outside the threshold as long as they want. They could become part of the alien world if they so choose. So
the hero can stay. The hero can just live a new life there, or even if they go back, you can actually just end the story after the climax. I mean, you can have you could potentially, for example, end Star Wars, the original trilogy, right after the Luke Skywalker kills or Darth Vader dies and the Emperor dies, or the Death Star blows up. We don't need to go over here and see Luke Skywalker returning to normalcy, see him join the celebrations. That's not necessary exactly, unless you make it more meaningful. But yeah, you can just stop it right there if you wanted to. That's what I mean about.
Were you going to say that Luke killed
Darth Vader? But he didn't.
Yeah, he totally did that. Also,
One that
do
is-
these visuals actually match up to anything they're saying?
They're supposed to.
It's
The idea.
I'm just okay. I do not have like a thing in like creative writing, so the only knowledge I have is of stuff I've actually had to teach myself. So a lot of this is going over my head, but there's like certain points where it's like, what? I do realize that this doesn't make sense.
Oh, don't worry. This is largely interpretive to the audience that she likes selling to. So that's fine. I mean, it's
That's Wit and Folly. She uses a lot of she puts a lot of things in her videos that are supposed to match up to other things, but you get to decide. That's where I guess she's a YouTube creator. So
It's YouTube art then. YouTube modern art.
yes,
yeah, YouTube modern art.
exactly. You got it.
Fuck modern
her
art.
banana taped to the wall.
glossed over and even non-existent in Star Wars stories. Campbell's interpretation of the Star Wars myth was about overcoming the machine.
What a wonderful power the machine gives you, but is it going to dominate you? The statement of what the need and want is must come from you, not from the machine, and not from the government that's teaching you, or not even from the clergy. It has to come from one's own inside, and the minute you let that drop and take what the dictation of the time is, instead of the dictation of your own eternity, you have capitulated to the devil, and you're in hell.
Luke Skywalker.
Wow, that was a bit flowery for me.
Well, I would expect something like that a little bit from him.
Yeah.
But one thing I did like was that it is kind of the journey is you use the machine. It's very, very convenient. Like a lot of these heroes, they come from the Empire they're trying to conquer. Like they benefit from the Empire being in existence. It's just that it's so tyrannical that they have to face that eventual choice of, do I continue living under tyranny but everything else is nice, or do I the trains run on time, that sort of thing, or do I step up and not let the machine dominate me and take the machine apart like Luke Skywalker did to the Empire?
You could say this as a literal theme of the story, that people say a lot of man versus machine in the Star Wars series, that nature versus technology is the side of the protagonists and the heroes.
But both sides use technology. Both
Yes.
sides use the Force. So
Yes.
I'm like, how do you pull that out of your ass?
It's, well, again, they're talking in general ideas. They're not using specific examples.
I guess you can get the idea of the machine is in like the, not machine is in technology, but the machine is in like big government. Like as kind of like, the Imperial is like a big government over the people, that kind of machine. But if you kind of go for like man versus machine in the sense of technology, then I don't think that fits.
It is largely interpretive. That's why I don't like looking at these things as like, oh, you should totally use this element. It's like, yeah, of course. No, I have no idea exactly what he's talking about. It's just this.
I like what Sophistic Autistic said, which this sounds like someone twisting the loosest interpretation of what Campbell says and tries to use that to say that the sequels are good. Yes, we are watching a Wit and Folly video.
And remember, this sort of knowledge, this sort of interpretation is for children. For novices,
because Star Wars is our movie
For children.
about space wizards, and they're made for children.
So if you want to do the Hero's Monomyth, read The Hero of a Thousand Faces. If you're a kid or a novice writer, there you go. If you're an expert, forget about it.
Everything's for children.
Patrick Williams.
Overcoming the machine of war and his own father, which was a symbol of that, being a machine himself. The journey provided Luke his transformation, where
The machine of war and the actual machine of two very different things.
Yeah, we know. It's kind of interpretive that way. It's like, my hand is a machine. So is that X-wing fighter. So is this Death Star. So is my heart pumping blood is a machine of the organic sense, but still a machine. Yeah, you could interpret anything as a machine, really. But
My computer is the exact same thing as a fucking tank. That way, as I destroy my computer, that's symbolic of me destroying a tank. makes sense.
Yes, you hate war. You're saving the things you love by destroying. No, wait, that's not right.
You don't kill the things we hate. We save the ones we love.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't
trying
remember.
I'm trying to save you all by destroying the things we hate. Can't you do both?
The things that hate you, that want to kill you, that are going to blow a giant hole in the base.
He saved the
Yeah.
machine and turned that machine back into a human. At the end of the Return of the Jedi, Luke becomes a master over his life and death.
Okay, so
But
wait.
he-
So
Wait, hold on. Okay, rewind it. Hold on. Wait, what did you just say?
He turns the machine back into a human.
Did I miss something?
let's just go back a few seconds.
Where he saved the machine and turned that machine back into a human. At
Okay,
the end of the Return of the Jedi,
What? Okay, let me run through the hero's journey real quick.
Yeah.
With what?
Save the machine.
I'm trying
the
to find where this was.
Okay, so let's go through this logic. The machine of war is symbolized by Darth Vader, and Luke saves the machine through Vader to turn him into a human. Am I getting that right?
I think she just made something up and then phrased it in a way that sounds fancy. Like it just sounds like it would fit in this rhetoric of Joseph Campbell, but I think she just made that up. Yeah, yes. What is part of it is the confrontation with the father and the defeating of the father, the big rival, which was Darth Vader's place in that movie. But returning the machine to the human, that's really seeming very specific to Star Wars, not so much the monomyth as a whole.
Yeah, and plus these are usually archetypes that he's referring to, not necessarily a literal father or a literal machine. So it's so interpretive. You're sitting there going, Wit and Folly, he's not actually turning Anakin into a man. That's not what's happening. I think she knows that. So,
Well, he fucking kills him.
well,
Takes off his mask.
this is true.
Oh, I do love at this moment, just because it's kind of relevant. At this point, Vader didn't say, "Hey, look, you need to find my Sith Wayfinder. It's at my castle." And Palpatine's gonna do this resurrection thing. You're probably gonna need this. Just take it. Just also watch out for this weird guy called Darth Uchi.
Thanks, Dad.
Like Luke's just
Luke
like,
becomes-
you could have told me these things.
the master over his life and death, but he never brings that elixir or the wisdom achieved through this journey back to his community. Luke burns his father's armor, destroying everything left of him.
Isn't that his body?
What could he bring to the community from Vader? What?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he burns the body because that's like a Jedi burial, according to Qui-Gon being burnt, his body being burnt.
Right. This is a ritual that you do at a funeral for respecting the dead, and there's other symbols
That's
with.
not refusing to give to the community. What are they going to give him? Vader's dead. Here's my dad's dead body.
Yeah.
Just take that.
They could see it as a trophy, I guess.
Well, I mean, he's a bit of a war criminal.
Yeah, so they probably wouldn't have the same feelings that Luke would have.
His LiteratureDevil just died.
Yeah, no, I saw that happening. Yeah, LiteratureDevil does that a lot. Everyone on my stream just dies.
Yeah, anyone watching my interview with him, if his voice cuts out, I swear that's not my editing. That is actually Discord. Like he tries to say that, oh, I like your show, I like what you're doing here, and he just keeps cutting out. It's like there's no way I can fix this. It just has to go in.
Yeah, it's a lot of things out of our control. So anyway, we shall soldier on. He'll come back, I'm sure, in a few minutes.
Or so we thought. And Vader's redemption being the elixir needed to heal the galaxy is not passed on. It can be inferred that this...
What?
Yeah, okay, the problem here is Vader's supposed redemption. When you actually think about what that means, the only thing Vader did that was redeeming was kill...
Was bring balance.
Well, that's hard to interpret.
Supposedly killing Palpatine.
Well,
from
what I saw in the movie of Episode 6, Again, I haven't seen episode 9, so I don't know. But episode 6, his only thing, like the only time he was good was when he saved his son from being fried to death by lightning. So
And killing the emperor,
yes,
destroying the.
everything up to that point was like bad, okay, bad here, kill this, kill it. Like everything was bad, right? So when people say this is an arc of redemption, it's like, no, it's not. He did one thing, which was not, he still killed someone, right? He's still killing people. Like that's his thing. He's like, I'm going to kill this guy and kill that guy, blow up this planet. Oh, that's really efficient. Then kill this subordinate who failed. Like he just kills people, okay? So you could argue killing a bad person is a good thing. He did it to save his son, true. But it's not an arc. He just made that choice after Luke made his choice. That's the beauty of having an antagonist and protagonist coming to a climax, coming to a choice they make. They make a dualistic effect on each other, which could have been not the actual thing that Lucas wanted. I don't know. But because it was done that way, that's what made it beautiful. That's what made it resonant. And it showed that there was some humanity in Vader. It was the hope that Luke believed in.
Anakin was still in there.
Exactly.
Because I always view Anakin and Vader being two completely separate psyche. Like I've always, or at least an animation idea I've always had, was the idea of inside Vader's mind, Anakin and Vader would actually be battling. It is often referred to as Anakin died when your father became Lord Vader. And that's even something that's explored quite a bit. It's often said that Vader even refers to Anakin as he killed him. So the different psyche.
It's fun. That's why we like these aspects of the hero's journey, because they use the psychological elements of the protagonist. Not so much the antagonist, because again, Vader is just this big black dude who we have no knowledge of who he is. And I don't mean black skin. I mean a big black box. He sounds like a big black dude, but he's not. We mean a big black mystery, and it's just he's evil. Like that's it. He personifies evil, and then we have the even bigger personification of evil, which is the Emperor. So we get it. We get what they're trying to do with the story there, and to reveal that he has some element of fraternal love is wow, or paternal love. Wow, look at that.
Might be what happens, but it's not exactly explicit. Vader's sacrifice and redemption is not known throughout the galaxy. Additionally, the canon, which was created post-Disney acquisition...
What is all this?
Tell people, like, didn't Luke just say, like, what are these books that are coming up? If I missed something.
Yeah, I think that she's trying to say that the galaxy doesn't know about the redemption of Darth Vader unless Luke actually,
Luke didn't go up to anyone and say, hey, look, actually, in the end, like, Vader would save my life and he destroyed the Emperor.
Right.
He didn't tell any. I think that would be a pretty big thing to tell people. It's like, hey, this guy killed the Emperor. It wasn't me. He wasn't blowing up the Death Star. Well, obviously that didn't happen because Palpatine's still alive. Again, this is how much it fucks with everything to have Palpatine come back.
Yeah, well, yeah, the EU is obviously removed, so these books don't mean much, but...
The EU isn't perfect, and I do heavily criticize the fact that they clone Palpatine. That is kind of stupid. Why can you clone such a powerful person? I don't have a big understanding of it. I know. I haven't read those books in particular, but I just know that happens.
As soon as you understand that concept, you're like, if they can clone Palpatines, why would you do anything else?
It's often said I think in the Force Unleashed 2, like they even say you can't clone a Jedi, you can't clone Force sensitivity, but they somehow managed to do it.
Right, like they went through multiple tries, and it's so hard to do. I think that was the idea. It's very rare to get it working right. So.
Shows us that the Star Wars universe was indeed not healed after Luke destroyed the second Death Star. From everything the storytellers were trying to tell us, it was clear that the myth still needed to be completed. Interestingly enough...
Wait, what do you...
What was
Why?
to prepare? Like...
What was wrong with episode 6? The story wasn't done? What do you mean it wasn't done?
The Empire, well, at least from what we could infer, the Empire was being wiped. knocked down, or at least fractured by the
Yeah.
fact it's got no leadership, we
Yeah.
can infer that this is now the end of the Empire and the reign of the New Republic, or at
Yeah.
least the rebellion as
And-
they're rising up.
Yeah, and in
Oh,
episode
he's back.
7. Oh, hey, LiteratureDevil. Nice to have you back, man.
Now I have no idea why my device keeps freezing. So I guess I'll figure that out later.
Okay.
What device is this?
My computer. I essentially did
Oh,
a
what is it
full
doing-
reinstall.
Okay, what is it doing specifically?
Just sometimes it just randomly freezes altogether. Did a
Is there
whole
any?
reinstall? But
What is
like,
it? A laptop? A
Laptop.
desktop? For my computer, I got this really annoying CPU that always overheats itself, and when it overheats, everything will just freeze.
Yeah.
So if everything is just freezing, it might be an indication that either your CPU or your motherboard is overheating, and that's the computer's way of stopping it from burning itself out.
That's one possibility. That's one of the ones I've heard about. I tried everything else, so that's probably the last one I'm
I've
going
had to
check.
underclock my CPU so it doesn't burn itself out. Because I've
I'll
got
look
this
into that.
really annoying AMD one.
So,
It's a really annoying thing to happen.
glad to have you back. What you missed is that apparently episode 6 did not have enough information in the epilogue to explain to
story.
the audience that peace has been achieved, even though in episode 7 the Republic was already established as being back. So they had to write some more stories to explain that to people because the monomyth wasn't finished at the end of episode 6. So thanks, Wit and Folly. Glad we understood that we needed to write more stories to sequel the original trilogy because it just wasn't finished. It wasn't good enough.
Captain O Opinions, she's unironically arguing that because the universe didn't immediately heal and become peaceful, then the hero's journey isn't complete. That is, yeah.
Okay, well let's see what she has to say about that because I was quite sure it was a pretty solid trilogy and everything made sense at the end. But okay, let's keep going.
Luke's end in The Last Jedi actually does complete this myth for Luke. Showing the kids at the end reenacting Luke's sacrifice shows us that the community, which is in this story the Star Wars universe, has been given the elixir as described by Campbell. But this is not followed up on in The Rise of Skywalker. In fact, it doesn't come up at all. Someone asked me on Twitter a while back, why does this myth have to be Campbell's though? Why does it have to follow that framework? Why not something new? And the answer to that is complicated. For one, the saga was, at various times, planned to be 3 trilogies and 9 films.
Would you consider playing an Obi-Wan type character handing Excalibur down to the next generation? I said, when would that be? And at the time he said all around.
Oh, and he's gone again.
Oh, he's got to get... I think you gave him ideas. He started playing around.
But if his computer is overheated, or if it's freezed again, then that is definitely a sign of it overheating. Obviously, because it hasn't had a chance to cool.
There could be many reasons. There's software-related issues. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's, in my experience anyway, freezing tends to be overheating, and especially if it's happening frequently,
Right.
then that's a sign that it hasn't had a chance to cool down.
All right, just got another super chat from Mr. Lancelot652. Thank you, sir. Palpatine clones the EU, from what I remember, weren't good either, as his spirit kept burning through them. Wow. Which is why he wanted Luke or Solo's kid. Okay, that's interesting. So there seems to be some sort of impure or unhealthy versions of clones that are supposedly set up to be holders of a Jedi mind or spirit. That
Palpatine spirit, yeah.
And Palpatine's so powerful that they just can't put that Palpatine spirit into the body. It just doesn't fit.
That sounds to me a bit like in Stargate. I'm trying to remember the specific person. It was like one of the Goulds, Goulds, who tried to ascend. But what's his name?
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
I can't remember the Gould who ascended, and then got put back down by the ancients, and then became this black ghost. God, it's completely slipping my mind.
Okay. Well, anyway, the EU is at least trying to explain why there's not an army of Palpatines running around. So,
not something that the sequels do, because Palpatine created Snoke somehow.
Yeah, and if you have like, apparently there's a jar of Snokes just sitting there.
Oh, Anubis. That's what we was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Anubis. When he lost his force field, he had to go into people, and he ended up using up their lives. Like you could see their faces were really fucked up. So yeah, I can kind of that can kind of. I'm
Interesting.
talking about this like no one's gonna get Stargate.
Oh no, I have some super fans out there of science fiction. Definitely.
Oh yeah, someone's even said Anubis in the chat.
Yeah. No. They're out there. They're listening. They know their stuff. They know more than I do. It's pretty amazing. So they correct
I
me.
need to rewatch Stargate now.
You know, it's one of those happy memories I've had. They're one of those shows that are just silly and fun, and then serious sometimes, and then
Oh god, Anil.
yeah, Patrick O'Neill.
2011.
Regardless of the plot that George Lucas wanted to tell, he wanted more than anything else for this story to resonate with the hero's journey as it was described by Campbell. Honoring that up until the very end was expected.
Star Wars producer-director George Lucas.
About 10 years ago, I set out to write a children's film. I had an idea of doing a modern fairy tale, stumbled across A Hero with a Thousand Faces. After reading more of Joe's books, I began to understand how I could do this. It was a great gift, and a very important moment. If I don't, it's possible that if I hadn't run across that, I would still be writing Star Wars today.
Did you have such a mentor when you were growing up? Is this part of the movie an extension of what happened to you?
Obviously, my first mentor was my father, but then, I think my last mentor probably was
Joseph Campbell.
Joe Campbell, who asked a lot of the interesting questions and exposed me to a lot of things that made me very interested in a lot more of the cosmic questions and the mystery. And I've been interested in those all my life, but I hadn't focused it the way I had once I got to be good friends with Joe.
Secondly, Campbell's studies on myth did not produce a framework for anyone to follow. Instead, it speaks to and rewards writers that understand the message that have been important in previous stories.
Well, it is a template. It is a framework. It is exactly what it says out to do. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. It's a series. How could you not call that a framework? What would you call that? Just a bunch of good ideas to do in order?
Yeah, surely you don't have to go by that, but I guess it's a good idea to try and do that maybe with your first story.
Well, yeah, you want to understand how to do something the right way. So someone shows you, and they could use a 3-act structure. They can use Foucault's triangle. They can use all sorts of different basic templates. But it's still a template. It's still like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and this is how you do those things. You can go back to Aristotle. You can go to John Truby. You can do all kinds of people that know what they're talking about. So for George to take the monomyth, and you can follow the monomyth, it's not perfect. Star Wars doesn't follow it perfectly. It comes close, but again, all the development, the character change of Luke happens in the last movie. There's really no psychological changes that I could see in the first.
Someone's asking if this is a womb lunatic.
Oh no, she's not a lunatic. She just is really perceptive of other things that the average person who likes logic and reason and evidence don't see. So she's in another.
I don't know, but someone was asking if it was the person who was talking about the.
Well, she hasn't said anything sexual yet, so that's cool. So she's obviously using a different.
Oh, you back again?
Hopefully, I can stay on.
What happened?
Finish this. It froze again.
Has the internet gods deemed you worthy to come for another few minutes?
I hope so. Well, I guess we'll see.
Next time we go, we'll just see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll just put a countdown.
The character motivations that have been explored and the arcs and story beats that have rhymed. You cannot simply recreate the arc with new characters. You have to allow the new story to have a life of its own and find a way for the message to have new meaning. while also drawing upon the previous lessons learned, making those lessons even more important for the entire universe.
Wait, whoa. Okay, so
Is you talking about the chiastic structure?
she's referring to using the monomyth, but you can't use it the same way, and then you use it in a way to do new stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's called writing, that's fine. And I agree that the monomyth was not strictly followed in Star Wars anyway, so it's not
Right.
really this one size fits all sort of solution. It's just a guide, and then you let your characters go where they need to go. That's what you write about. So yeah, this is, I don't know, this is what, like, what's her point in all this? I don't even know what she's getting at here. She's talking about the monomyth being this important thing, but it's not strict, and people use it, only children and novices.
I'm really
And
struggling to follow with this whole thing. It kind of seems a bit of a mess.
it's a meandering topic that isn't quite clear what her point is yet. Again, remember the title of this whole video is different. Okay?
So why did they kill him? A
Right.
possible explanation.
Yeah.
8 minutes in,
we don't
you
know-
haven't said shit.
Yeah, we don't know who died and who's explaining what. Okay.
I mean, maybe they're talking about why they killed Luke and replaced him with Jake. That's my headcanon now. Like, Jake is like...
Yeah. We're inventing
Jake's
headcanon
like
for
Luke's
inventing
brother.
headcanon for Wit and Folly. Yeah, it's like, what's she talking about? Okay. This is what I think is
Jake
going on.
just came in. Maybe Luke's actually just kind of buggered off somewhere. It's like, okay, Jake, I know you're my retarded half brother, but you're gonna have to stay here on this island while I go sort some things out. Is that okay with you?
I think
It's like,
Jake
go away.
Jake could be one of those clones that didn't quite make it but was good enough, and it's his answer to Palpatine, because Palpatine was like, making an army of clones, and so Luke did his own solution. Yeah.
He must be obsessed with clones. Maybe
He
I'm
cloned
obsessed
Snoke.
with clones.
He made his own
He did.
Snoke.
He cloned an army.
I don't know where he got the
what's
stuff to make Snoke a Snoke clone thing. I guess maybe he ordered it over the phone. It's kind of
Also,
those
clone
sea monkey
army,
kind of things.
best army. So yeah, he made a clone army. He made clone Snokes. He cloned himself. He made a clone Star Killer. Oh, that was Vader.
And at least when he
Clones?
ordered the clones, or when someone ordered the clones, it was possible. He was out in the open. He wasn't hiding in some recesses of the universe, in some weird place,
if you go into
building infinite ships.
If you go into the deeper lore of the Clone Wars, it was actually ordered by Sifo Dyas, and the whole plan was co-opted by Dooku and what's it, Sidious. I'm a huge geek, if you can't tell.
All right, let's continue, guys.
In Campbell's own
What we're talking
words-
about here is much more interesting.
Yes, I know, but we have to
Don't
follow
make
her.
me go into that, please.
We have to
You
follow
can't
what
put
she's
me
saying.
back.
I've already lost what she was talking about.
It's not that I tell people what to do, but my work points out where the inspiration is, and you move in yourself as an artist and pull that out. They don't try to copy something that has been given to them. They see an experience of their own life in these terms, and that takes knowing what the archetype is and forgetting it, then reading out of that something that kicks back all the way. The Rise of Skywalker did not find this, and that is why it creates a sort of mythic dissonance for the entire franchise.
Okay, here's a new term I've never heard
So
before.
she hates the Rise of Skywalker. Okay, so there's a big disconnect between people who love the Last Jedi and people who love the Last Jedi hate the Rise of Skywalker. Like they really hate it.
I told you about this. One of my tutors absolutely loved The Last Jedi, and then they came in to the class and they just absolutely hated The Rise of Skywalker. Even though to me, like they both have so many problems. How can you see the problems with this film but not the other? Had the same problem with one of my friends. They absolutely hated. Well, it's a different problem, but kind of the opposite. They hated The Last Jedi, but when it went into The Rise of Skywalker, they absolutely adored it. They said it's amazing when they went in.
That's a strange reaction. I've never heard of that. I've never heard that opinion online of people actually liking it.
Well, it was mainly. I don't know if they still hold the same opinion. They seem to be a lot more cynical now, and I even know someone else who originally. I'm not going to mention any names here, but they I was just talking today, and originally they really went in loving the Rise of Skywalker, but then they came back today. It's like after I saw it the second time, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was. But they kept like bringing up things like the Force dyad defense,
The
and like
dyad.
the dyad defense is the
That's
most
the
annoying.
explanation. It's the explanation of why Rey and Kylo apparently are
Why
so
they
powerful.
can make things teleport. They're a dyad. It's like what?
They're dyad in the
What's
what a
a
dyad in the
dyad?
Force?
Why?
What
Why
it?
is a dyad? What does
How's
it
it come
do?
about?
How are they a dyad? Who knows?
How is one made in the Force? Nobody knows because they don't explain it. It's
Well, okay, the thing I have a problem with this is that she's saying this is a bad movie or this is bad because it didn't follow the mythos or the archetypes of whatever template that Joseph Campbell was talking about, which is fine. But
if she's making that argument, then it's bad. Then The Last Jedi is bad because it also
so is the episode 7. I mean, they're all bad.
They're all bad then. According to her own argumentation at this point, they are all bad.
Right.
Don't make us go back in. Ugh.
The American monomyth.
Oh no!
In summary, the Campbellian monomyth
Makes it
is
American.
Okay, I actually did a little bit of homework on this. I could read you one of the intros to the American
That would
monomyth.
be a lot more interesting.
Okay.
I swear, that would be 100% more interesting than this video.
The way the authors coined this, either I don't know if this is the forward by the authors or someone who they got to forward the book. It sounds like they're trying to sell you something, okay? And I don't know if you know about American exceptionalism or American jingoism or the attitude that Americanization is great from the 50s or the 40s and the 60s. This whole attitude that, yay, America's powerful and there's the hero, there's the John Waynes, there's the...
that's kind of what America... Isn't America still like that? I mean, I've only been there like once. So.
Right. It's that attitude that America is great and we have these hero archetypes and we sort of accumulate this idea into the form of the American novel, which is called the Great American Novel, referred to as the comic book, which not everyone agrees with, but that's where you get the pulps, that's where you get these melodramatic elements like Buck Rogers and all sorts of other great stories over the years. And there's a monomyth based off this, which is fine, but she's going to explain this, how this is what happens in episode 9. Okay? And it's all about Americans being awesome. You have these supernatural, powerful male character, and he's going to take on the alien invaders.
When I went to the movies, especially Star Wars, one thing I definitely didn't get was America, fuck you.
Yeah. So you have to
lightsabers.
Yeah, you have to wrap your brain around. Okay, yeah. Aside from the pro-America, pro-democracy, pro this or that you usually affiliate with America.
It's kind of pro-democracy because they're fighting against like a non-democracy. I can't remember the word is.
A totalitarianship or dictatorship?
Yeah, whatever. What dictatorship?
Okay. All right, that's good. But is that like the central thrust of the story, that there's this democratic union that are fighting an army?
I mean, it's the downward thrust.
Okay. well, I could read some. Let's just read the first two paragraphs. And now, friends, here we go. And now, friends, for a brief message. Have you been feeling apathetic lately, lulled by the bubblegum fallacy, pseudo-empiricism, or mythic denial? Or do you suffer artificial stimulation by the Werther effect and mythic massage? What do you say to your child's plaintive? "Ah, Mom," or Dad, as the case may be, "a little more won't hurt me. It's only television." And what are you yourself doing about some old Superman comic books you couldn't bear to throw away? Or your childhood memories of that radio voice, "Hi-ho, Silver, away!" For some answers to these and other questions, tune in here. So that was the first paragraph.
Now to our sponsors.
Yeah, it sounds like
word from our sponsors.
Yeah, they're coming across as the thing they're trying to articulate, which is the attitude of making these serials or episodic stories where you have the white knight in rural or urban America, whether it's a Western or a Star Trek or whatever. So that's the attitude about the American monomyth. I'm sure they have their own cycle. They have their own ideas.
Is there an English monomyth? What
Oh,
about a Canadian?
Good Lord, that would be hilarious. First, we build lots of ships and conquer the planet, and then we just sort of faff about for 200 years and drink tea all day. That would be great. Yeah.
Let me just drink some tea.
And we
Nah,
produce
good
licenses for
tea.
everything. The end is, instead of the return of normalcy, it's produced licenses for stuff.
When in doubt, conquer Africa. It's just okay. Yeah, I'll just go to Africa again.
So what would the Canadian monomyth be?
Oh God, don't even ask. Have some coffee, complain about the weather, and bitch about how none of your sports teams are doing anything worthwhile.
Let's see how we can take the piss out of each other's country.
Yeah, it's really easy.
A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. In 1977, the American monomyth by Robert Jewett and John Shelton Lawrence posits that a variation of Campbell's monomyth can be found in American stories.
Okay, that's fine and all, but this is one of the most obscure monomyths you've ever heard of. If you thought the heroine's journey was obscure, this is like no one's heard of this goddamn thing, okay?
Is Batman an American monomyth? I don't really think of him much of as a American. He's more just fighting crime in a city. Superman, yes, because he's fighting for truth, justice, and the American way.
Especially the American way.
Yeah, he's Superman fighting for the American way. Who cares about truth and justice?
Yeah,
not Americans.
When you have science fiction, you sort of alleviate yourself of these ridiculous concepts of like singular governments or small time. What happened thousands of years ago? You don't think like this way. You think of big civilizations that span galaxies, that have republics and democracies of various flavors and colors. So I'd love to see how she ties this all together.
She's always
sure it'll be in the last minute.
She's always pulling out these random obscure stuff just to explain to support these arguments, so that she can have some sort of, I don't know, support of her opinions. And this fails because X, Y, and Z. And here is because the heroine's journey was fantastic. It was really strange. It was really strange, and it was completely wrong. The heroine's journey is just a lunacy. It is a loony idea, and it doesn't work. Okay, it's the same thing because the heroine's journey is basically the heroine goes through the hero's journey, and then she really begins her journey. So she begins her journey, then she goes the entirety of the hero's journey. Stupid boys, that's just a step on along the way. And then she can go into the real journey, which is more mental and emotional, all that good stuff, which is basically her becoming incredibly miserable because she casts off her femininity, which is just exactly what it says in the heroine's journey. And then her real journey begins after she's become successful, and it's basically her trying to regain her femininity and balance femininity and masculinity. It's really strange stuff, and it doesn't really work in the story structure. Not the way they explain it.
Well, she skips half of it.
Yeah, she skips most of it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, don't worry about this part. And they're like, oh, okay.
I'm willing to bet that none of this is going to be explained until the last 3 minutes, and maybe the last 50 seconds will be like an.
That sounds just like Wit and Folly. Yeah, it's kind of.
So, who died?
We don't know.
Why did they kill him?
10 minutes. We still don't know who died.
I think a better idea of this would be: can you explain to me who exactly is the subject of the video? Who's the one who died, and why we what is the reasoning? What's the possible reasoning of this person?
Break it all down.
I need to know who died.
Who died? Why did they die? Who killed them? And why is this a possible explanation and not an actual explanation?
Yeah, it sounds like
the reason why it's not the explanation is because it's possibly an explanation.
it's not even a proper subtitle to like a murder mystery. It's like, Death on the Nile. It's like, well, did they really kill someone on the Nile? Possibly. Yeah.
I just was getting reminded of like remember in EFAT they used to cover the Genesis video, and the title would have nothing to do with what was actually being talked about. It's like when I was doing the video, I was like, okay, do I name it this thing? Because it's not like entirely quite what I originally intended it to be. It's like, do I name it this? Do I name it that? I don't want to make it sound like it's not the thing that's actually being talked about. It's like, okay, I'll just change the title. Like, no, they're just keeping the original title after even the video is just gone on compared to like it's off on some spiral and going down into the ocean somewhere.
Okay, let's just keep going. I want to know who got killed here because it's kind of
10 minutes and I need to find this out.
We have to draw out this pain just to try and escape from it, or we go in head first.
Let's keep going, guys. Come on. We can do it.
They describe this myth thusly. A community in a harmonious paradise is threatened by evil. Normal institutions fail to contend with this threat. A selfless superhero emerges to renounce temptations and carry out the redemptive task. Aided by fate, his decisive victory restores the community to its paradisical condition. The superhero then recedes into obscurity. According to this thesis...
Okay, that's basically the Wikipedia article, because there's barely a paragraph there.
Does Superman recede into obscurity?
No, he's pretty famous.
He doesn't.
I mean, yeah, he's very famous.
It's a general story, though, isn't it? I mean, what the hero's journey, the basic hero's journey is a hero just arises. I mean, something bad happens. There's that's the regular farm boy. That's the stereotypical essential character of a hero's journey. Regular farm boy, maybe some things are going wrong, and then something cataclysmic happens. His village gets destroyed or something, and he goes off on a journey, and then there's something bad happens. There's something bad that happened is probably the same thing he has to go on a journey to overcome. I mean, it's the hero's journey again. What's exactly different? And then at the end, he goes back to normalcy, which could be going back into obscurity. So what's exactly different about this?
Yeah, there's nothing really American about that particular description. So,
unless you throw in communism in there,
I mean, you could take any
communism
genre,
monomyth.
take any genre of any setting, and it's like, yeah, there's a hero. He does this. He gets in media res, and then he has to go fight the demon lord, and then he has to go train to become strong. It's like, yeah, we get it. We understand this. We don't need another template to explain this. We get it. We read the original. It's fine. So there has to be something specific to the American monomyth that she has to tell us that is accurate, or else she's again making stuff up.
Okay, I'm gonna break some news to you. There is no such thing as a communist monomyth.
Oh God.
They're already just awesome, I guess.
Let's go writing a Wikipedia back article.
The communist monomyth. They start off awesome, and then they just continue with propaganda. It's actually just them falling apart. There's actually the zombies this whole time. There's never but they never work for anything. That's why, because communism doesn't work.
The proletariat rises up as a single entity, and then they separate and then come back together, and they control the means of production at the end. Okay.
Maybe Ray is the communist monomyth because she doesn't work for anything. She just is handed.
But she doesn't share it though. It's all just to her. In fact, no, she absorbs all the other Jedi powers. All the Jedi are in her.
Oh God!
No one thought before they wrote that line.
But she's telling them everyone she's a hero. She has all the power, and then she deals it out a little bit to people, to each of their need, of their needs. So maybe Ray is the communist monomyth.
So she gives like the most powerful force to like the little boy with no force powers. Like, oh, you're totally without force. So I'm gonna make you a god now.
And it's especially convincing because she doesn't work for anything.
Girl.
So, I mean, it's a pretty good explanation because she doesn't work for anything, and then there's no work involved. She just gets things. She's handed all the power, like Joseph Stalin, just hoard all the power and then deal it out a little bit, but just enough so that everyone stays poor and starving. So I think it's maybe she is the communist monomyth.
Okay, let's get back to whatever she's talking. I think we're going off topic here.
I'm trying to purposely disrail this. I can't go through this video. Don't make me. You can't make me go back.
The myth evolves from various American beliefs. The need for Edenic myths which stem from Puritan Christianity and the idea that the American landscape is paradise on earth, which has also developed in the moral sphere and inflated by a need for moral perfectionism.
All these clothes are going to make them feel bad.
Annie?
Could you maybe take them back to the orphanage and give them to my friends?
The fear of the other coming into this paradise and changing it developed a superhero in the form of a zealous crusader to heal the paradise through violence and restore things to how they should be. In this myth, men are violent redeemers. Violence is inevitable to eradicate evil, to redeem or restore the community. Women, on the other
Generally, if there is someone who's imposing force on something and creating bad things, then you do need force to stop them from doing bad things.
Yeah, it's generally how it goes in stories. If the death
Not
is
just
not
in stories, in real life.
Oh,
if
no.
someone is doing something bad, you need force to
Yeah.
stop them from doing that bad thing.
Yeah, the most basic element in a story is murder or death or killing, and you want the stakes to be high. So if there's no body on the ground, like I don't want to read a murder mystery if the guy winds up not being dead.
It's not a murder mystery.
Is them to death.
It's like, surprise, he's alive. Like, what? Wait, no. It's
Possible Death on the Nile. Yeah, I'm reading that book. I'll pick that one up.
So yeah, death, murder, violence, very important to stories.
hand, are angels.
Are you an angel?
Oh God.
What?
They are the redeemers who cleanse the soul of the men who act violently.
Oh God, are you an angel?
And she had to quote that, of course, just to make some semblance of reality.
Okay, I'll put this off track again. Angels are actually in canon. They are actually a species in Star.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually a species. When Anakin goes, "Are you an angel?" It's actually because pilots have encountered these species, which are called the Angels. They're in a single episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I think it's something of 1,000 moons, and the planet they're all trapped on, and so that's another story. But I just thought,
Okay, well,
I'm a geek.
Yeah. I think we're all pretty much well versed in our lore of various franchises. Don't worry about that.
You didn't know angels were a thing.
Yeah. Well.
She seems to be trying to make the argument that this is specific to American monomyths or whatever, and this is due to the how America is paradise, and this is specific to American. This is moral Puritanism. This is actually something that has These ideas have existed throughout several cultures, throughout centuries. Be the good person. We want good guys to win. We want bad guys to lose. And there's been violence and conflicts. I mean, you never read the Aeneid, or Troy, the Battle of Troy, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Odyssey had a lot of confrontation, a lot of violent confrontation in there, and that wasn't America hadn't even been thought of yet.
Yeah, I think she's going with the more fan reaction to things like Star Trek. How there's this fanatic group of people who just obsess over the lore, but it's not in a healthy way. I think that's what she's trying to get at, because I can't really see any difference between this and extrapolating another cycle from.
Do people obsess about? I'm more in tune with the Star Wars fandom than the Star Trek fandom, even though I'm a big fan of both. Are there actually people who dig that far into Star Trek?
There's way more lore in Star Trek because
a lot more,
because it's hardcore or hard.
It's part of the plot. It's part of the plot.
Yeah,
I can think of many times that Star Trek has contradicted itself. I think on Mutants, it's contradicted itself several times.
There are some retcons for sure, but we're talking about a massive body of lore. So technical specs, biological specs, timelines. There's so much going on in Star Trek. So there's bound to be one writer, not only just the TV series, but the books are gigantic. They're just crazy. They go nuts with lore. So yeah, that's to be expected. But it's always very minor. It's always like this. Oh, okay, it could be another timeline, or they try to clean it under the rug in some other fashion. So
my interpretation was they always just kind of make stuff on the spot. that was like what I found with Star Trek. Oh, the plasma flow is not being inverted correctly.
Well,
It's going
it
straight
kind of
to the
devolved
core.
into
It's gonna make it.
kind of devolved into that.
Yeah, after Star Trek, or rather after DS9. No. I would say even Enterprise did fairly decent with with the science. They because they were doing a prequel to the original series, and they did a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah, I think shields came out of nowhere. They were an invention of the armory guy, and phase cannons were like sort of coming about.
Well,
Same
they
with
didn't use shields. They
no,
used polarized full plating.
yeah, exactly. So but they show pre-tech or pre-Star Trek tech, which is cool. I thought that was kind of neat because they wanted to be as accurate to the original show as possible, but still making it modern to have an actual looking bridge with controls that make sense, with diagnostic tools and what have you. And that's why I really like the rustic look of stuff, the gritty stuff of like the Warp 5 engine or whatever, the Warp 4 engine, whatever it was called. It's such a big deal. And
I'm just gonna poke the chat. I like Enterprise season 4 and 5. Well, not 5. What was it? 3 and 4? Sorry.
well, right after the Xindi arc, yeah, it was fantastic. So
Xindi arc is absolutely brilliant, and then everything in season 4, apart from the last, like the last episode, is not good.
yes, for sure, that was definitely a mess. The last episode of Enterprise, yeah, for sure.
These are the Voyages.
Oh god, that was a big miscalculation. Yeah, so let's not
The
talk
last
about
episode
that.
isn't even about the crew. It's about TNG.
It's Riker and Troy. Thank you, Enterprise. That's just what we wanted.
Yeah,
I like how,
Riker has.
like how Witten Foley points out this the other attacking, and it's the cowboys attacking the Native American the Native American assaults back in the Old West. And what do you in this depiction? Okay, it's one faction fighting the other, and she's depicting the faction being attacked as the faction that she's talking about, the American people facing the outsider, being quote unquote afraid of the outsider. Well, shouldn't you be afraid of the outsider who wants to kill you? What are you supposed to do? Is have this massive horde of violent invaders, and then what? Form a drum circle?
Open-minded, so much that your brain falls out, and you get murdered.
Well, I haven't read enough of the American Monomyth to say that there's some connection between colonialism and taking over the native land of the immigrants there, or the people who actually grew there and becoming immigrants. So that might be part of the American Monomyth. I doubt it, because we're talking about pop culture.
Someone
Not that
did
specific
mention.
instance, though. I mean, because she was explaining that the Americans, the American monomyth, part of that, or the American ideal of a hero, is this violent redeemer who helps fight off the outsider. Because the xenophobia sort of thing, where you have someone coming in and they want to get rid of them because they will taint the paradise or something. Well, then, and the example she showed us, it was the Native American Indians coming to attack the Americans, and both sides are being violent, but both sides are being violent. So what are you supposed to do if one side is trying to take you over with violence? You're supposed to just let them in, just form a drum circle and sing Kumbaya. What's supposed to happen? That's not only that's distinctly American, I think it's distinctly human. We've been doing that for centuries, millennia.
Yeah, no. I think she's trying to interpret it in a way, and I don't think it was clearly defined. Again, if you go to the actual Wikipedia, there's barely 2 paragraphs about that, and she quoted it. So it's just a community in a harmonious paradise is threatened by evil, yada yada, and there's a superhero that comes out and saves the day.
It's a lot of stories. It's not just American stories. It's a lot of stories.
Yeah.
That's the hero's journey almost.
It's too generic to call it American. That's the problem.
But it's way too generic.
Yeah, so there has to be more to it than that.
It's like acting like the America's the only place that can do story.
Only Americans can be heroes, guys.
Fuck aliens. Aliens can't be heroes.
Yeah, every American monomyth involves the Independence Day of some flavor. It's
the Doctor's not a hero.
Jesus was American. He rose as a hero to fight off the Roman Empire. Odysseus was American. He rose up to help the Greeks defeat Trojans. Well, I mean, when I say Greeks, I mean, of course, fellow Americans.
King Arthur. King Arthur was American, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. King Arthur was the most American of all heroes.
So he went up there with his guns and his American flag. Said, "I fight for American sword."
Okay, I think I've lost the joke, so I'm gonna keep going, guys.
Violently.
Mr. Warbucks.
The Bolsheviks, dear. He's living proof that the American system really works, and the Bolsheviks don't want anybody to know about that.
They forgive them.
What?
Another variable to these myths is how
I was right. You have to add in communism as the bad guy for it to be distinctly
What's
American.
going on here? I don't.
That's the only way. I mean, like we said, it's too generic to be specifically American unless you kind of add in the looming threat of communism as the bad guy, which is understandable. Communism is poison. You don't want poison to enter your society. So
I don't know.
We need Liberty Prime up in here. Communist detected.
I smell sedition. Okay.
Embrace patriotism. Embrace democracy.
makes a hero or heroine weak. When Superman forgoes his power so that he can have sex with Lois Lane, he is punished for it immediately after. The choice is sex or power, and the hero needs the power to save the world. So the real choice is between what...
Well, that's an everyday choice between sex and power.
Why not both?
No.
Why couldn't he...
Who died?
Yeah, who died, by the way? We're 12 minutes
Who
in.
died? I was like, okay, so he's getting... Okay, Superman's getting beat up. This reminds me... We're supposed to be discussing who died. Why did they kill him? And
Superman died? What?
You know, in a possible explanation, it was a Superman. I don't think Superman died. Not in this movie, anyway.
I thought we were talking about Star Wars here, guys.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about Star Wars.
It's just a roller coaster. She got so excited about
Who's
this
the him
video.
who died? She
I
would
don't
named
know.
it.
Maybe it's a plot twist.
It would have been the original title would have been a far more accurate title, which was what the hero's journey is not complete. That would have been a better title. Now I don't know. Now I'm just asking who's dead, who killed him, and what kind of explanation do we need?
Plot twist: no one fucking died.
They're all clones. Everyone's a clone.
But I mean,
no one's ever truly gone.
The hero wanting to return to normalcy, that's part of the human condition. I mean, it's part of the journey. And there's always temptations there along the way. I think it's even part of the monomyth. I forgot which one it's specifically called. But there is a moment, there is usually a moment, I mean, there can be a moment like this, where the hero is on their journey. They're on their way to go defeat the bad guy. And they find a route to paradise, a personal paradise. It's usually like a loved one, a significant other. Maybe, you know, Superman found Lois. The Mandalorian more recently found that widow lady. I don't know her name, but he found this widow lady, which it gives him a route to normal life. And the hero might reject that so they can complete their cycle, complete the hero's journey. Now that part is, you know, it's just a temptation. It's just another obstacle, a more of a mental or emotional obstacle that the hero must endure, as opposed to the more physical ones, like, for example, Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker. I'm not really sure if this what she says, sex makes the hero weak.
Yeah, sex or power. It's like, oh, that's not really how that works. I mean,
usually it's both.
Yeah, you accumulate everything. You don't just throw one positive away for something else, or
like just the me in the store is like sex, power, sex, power.
They kind of go together.
Well, yeah, that's generally how you acquire resources to get all the things, to do all the things you want to do.
Then more resources gives you more
Palpatine
power.
had both, apparently.
Yeah, apparently somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so
he had a son or daughter.
This whole thing
somewhere.
with Superman is just a little derailing. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Friends, meals, love, sex, potentially children,
Jar Jar.
or what the hero's purpose in the story is, to save the community through their special abilities, through their strength. The hero is almost always having to sacrifice human qualities in order to fill this purpose. The real tragedy in all this is that in the end,
What human sacrifice? What qualities would you have to sacrifice?
Well, I think she's just being flowery with her words. I think she means sacrifice in general. It could be anything.
Yeah, I guess sacrifice in general, but what human qualities is in the idea of
don't
human
ask.
qualities would you have to sacrifice?
I mean, it's
is
just,
that who
it's- I
died?
think it's the usual sacrifice of the hero usually tends to have to sacrifice things they want, things they
Yeah,
actually
maybe happiness.
desire, so that they can go on and save everyone from, I don't know, the empire or
But
something.
that's not a human quality.
Or communism. I mean, maybe I have to sacrifice my thriving business so that I can go fight communism or something. Same sort of sacrifice.
No sex for you this week. You get power, sir.
God, why is this just more entertaining than the video itself? Talking about communism.
I don't know what she's talking about right now. Okay, we have to wrap our brains
None of
around
us
it.
do.
Then we could properly assess what she's trying to tell us. And if you go to her actual video and read the comments, the flowery language, it's so clear. You make so many good points. You're just like scratching your head. Like, did you watch the same thing? Just
I mean, I would prefer to watch Patrick Williams' plot hole video because at least you can follow that. It's completely bullshit, but at least he tells us, okay, well, there's this, there's that, the other. I mean, he's wrong about it, but at least he goes from A to B to C.
Well, this is actually somewhat entertaining in the most obscure way. So she will get to a point. I just don't know when.
because the hero has committed so much violence, they cast themselves out of the community that they healed. They take on that darkness and either die, eradicating it completely, or they disappear into obscurity, only to reappear when the world...
So much to do with Star Wars and Luke.
Is this still the American monomyth?
Yes. I think.
So how does this relate to Luke Skywalker, as he did not outcast himself because of what he did?
I
Turn
think
your
she might
brain
be
off.
referring to. I think she might, because one of the iconic settings for American heroes is the Old West. So I think what you might be referring to in this scenario might be the hero comes in, rises up, fights off all the bad guys, cleans up the town, and then rides off into the sunset. Going back into obscurity. I think if we put it in that setting, okay, that can sort of get where she's coming from.
What does that have to do with Star Wars or whoever the fuck died?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I think if you put it in the focus of the traditional the hero's tale of the cowboy, the American cowboy, okay, yeah, maybe I can kind of see it. He rises up. There's always like this little town. Maybe there's some raiders or some bandits. He cleans up the
communists have
town.
cowboys?
No, because cowboys came out of capitalism. Because they're rough they're rough and rugged.
What would a communist cowboy be?
Oh dear.
I don't know. But I can kind of see this if you put in the context of American cowboy. He just rises up as maybe the sheriff. He becomes the sheriff, fights off the invading force, and then rides off into the sunset. He does, he's not the marrying kind. The woman says, "I want to marry you. Stay here," and he says, "No, I'm riding off in that sunset." Okay, now I can kind of see what the American monomyth is coming from, what she's trying to explain. Although she's not explaining it very clearly. Maybe she should have used
that again.
She should have used the cowboy explanation, because then it starts to put into line.
My brain is melting.
It's not that bad. It's just hard to follow. That's all. We're getting there, guys. We're almost done.
needs them again. This type of hero eventually developed into the American anti-hero.
Okay, for them to eventually appear when the hero needs them again, that's not specifically American. Like, you do know the story of King Arthur.
Yeah, I was about to say.
King Arthur, the king,
Arthur's asleep.
once in a future king. You know that story?
King Arthur is just sleeping until his people need him again. That's the legend.
Maybe he overslept. Didn't put his alarm
We
clock.
Maybe
forgot
he woke
about
up. I think maybe he woke up and said, "Oh, all this stuff is going on. I'm going to go back to sleep."
So just kind of woke up in like 2020. It's like, oh look, it's time. The kingdom needs me again. It's like it looks around, it's like, oh fuck this shit. I'm gonna sleep for another 2,000 years.
You
This is
conquered what? The planet? No, I'm not gonna help everyone. That's too many people.
which we see so much in modern media. What's interesting to me is that all of this is about redemption.
Okay, what? How?
Turn your brain off.
Why redemption? How is it redemption?
Maximus.
Oh, I
Maximus.
think you might be a little bit ahead of me.
Maximus is the most American hero you can ever find.
This Roman gladiator story is a story of redemption. No, it's what?
You know, I'm glad she's using examples, but could she have at least used an example of? I think she mentioned John Wayne, but we need to see these. She's using visual examples anyway. Why not use a John Wayne cowboy movie? Why not use a cowboy movie in general? Right off into the sunset. That's where it comes from. That's what she's talking about.
I don't think the story of Gladiator was a story of redemption. I'm quite sure about that.
It was a story of revenge.
Revenge, yeah, the opposite.
There was nothing Maximus needed to redeem. He just wanted to kill Joaquin Phoenix. That's all.
But apparently the monomyth, the American monomyth, is really just redemption.
And this is what you get with Wit and Folly. This was a pattern I've seen. She talks about something, and she shows what should be an example, but isn't. This is so easy, too, if you're talking about the American monomyth, and if you're trying to, like I said, just show us some cowboy movies. Show a guy riding off into the sunset when she says they go back into obscurity. That's what that is. They rise up and defeat the bad guy. There's so many of these stories that exist in the cowboy, the cowboy setting, the Old West setting, and that would be a fantastic setting to push forward if you're going to make this American monomyth argument, because the Old West is a very distinctly American setting. It's very ideally, iconically American. But you don't.
Okay, so the idea of redemption is that someone did something wrong, so we have an anti-hero maybe, and then they decide to go on a journey to solve their problem, whether it's external to the community or it's internal to their conscience. Okay.
Yes, I mean, look at Batman and the Dark Knight Returns specifically. I mean, the Gotham City returned to a state of chaos. You have like nuns being murdered in the street, tortured to death, children being kidnapped and killed, all kinds of horrific things. And Gotham became a nightmare on the streets. And then you had Batman rise up as the hero after he went back to, after he faded into obscurity voluntarily, and then he became the hero again.
Wait, it's on about the animated, or the real American animated.
It's the comic book.
That never said, yeah. Well, they're the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah,
it was a comic, and then they made it into an animated movie, which is both are really good.
I really enjoyed it. We should watch that rather than this.
We got 5 minutes. Come on, we can do it.
Redeeming the community from evil, redeeming individuals from their violent behaviors. But
redeeming the community from evil? What does that even mean?
The evil community.
Who's being...
All I can think of specifically...
What is the community doing that's evil?
For that example, the only thing I can think of is Batman. The Batman story specifically Batman. Because, the story of Gotham, at least what story that's turned into, is that Gotham is a city riddled with crime, and then Batman came out of the shadows to go defeat it and punch crime back into obscurity.
He's not redeeming, you don't redeem a society. That doesn't make any sense. You can't...
This is 2020. It needs to be Batwoman.
Well, yeah, but you can reform a society. You could clean it up with, by like Batman. He comes in and throws everyone in jail. That's great. But you're not redeeming the society. That doesn't...
You're getting rid of the bad parts. You're getting rid of you're standing up to the cancerous part of that society.
Yeah, but the society isn't a group of people who all had the same sin, and they're trying to... and their Batman comes by and says, you better redeem yourself over stealing when you were 5. They're like, oh, Batman, thank you. We didn't realize that was the law. And then they feel bad, and they go, apologize and do some community service.
I think part of Batman is he gives people hope. like something
He
like
gives people panic attacks. I don't think he gives them hope.
that. He gives people a symbol, a symbol of hope for people to rally behind, and a symbol of fear to make people fear the bat.
Yeah, he puts people in the
He-
hospital. Don't do this, I'll break your legs.
I mean, even in Gotham, they go over the whole thing. It's like Jim is like, oh, this city needs a symbol of hope and fear.
Right.
They need.
I think the main point is that Witten Folly, she's making an argument, but she's using very poor examples.
She's using the wrong terminology.
Because she's trying to argue the American monomyth for some reason, and she's using all these examples of things that aren't, they're just generic stories. She even used an Old West example, but she didn't really go into how in depth it is. She should have used the Old West examples for her entire argument.
And
Can't we just skip to like the last minute and then just find out who died?
Yes.
That's the most important question that you're not going to know till the last minute. We want to know who died, why they killed him. Like, this just needs to be like a whole Agatha Christie novel.
Maybe they killed Joseph Campbell. Maybe that's the analogy she's trying to make here. That
who killed Joseph Campbell?
That would fit right into Witten Follies.
It was Mr.
aesthetic.
Mustard.
The hero themselves, although they are redeemed in the end, they do not get what they want. This is why the end of the Skywalker saga has proven to me...
How could they not get what they want? If they get redeemed at the end, that's their story, that's their plot. They are a plot of redemption. And if they get redeemed at the end, voila. What is she talking about? She's so... like, it's too general. There's nothing specific. It's like, who gets redeemed? I don't know.
I guess technically they didn't get what they want. I mean, Kylo Ren wanted to become Darth Vader's kind of successor. Didn't happen. Rey wanted to find her parents. Technically did happen, but they were already
Rey just
dead.
wanted to bang Kylo this entire time.
Yeah.
What?
But those were the desires that they had in the beginning. That's like in the first. I mean, Force Awakens. Those were the desires that they had in the beginning. They changed since then.
I refuse to believe
No,
that.
they
I'm
weren't
sorry.
changed. They just disappeared.
Yeah,
just poofed into
it
thin air.
vanished. It just phased into
There's
nothingness.
too many lightsaber battles between Rey and Kylo for them to suddenly want sex. I'm sorry. It doesn't...
I mean, there's a lot of sexual tension in those lightsaber battles, apparently. At least to Raylo.
As we're told there's a lot of sexual tension.
Like, Kylo must really like girls who dominate him in lightsaber battles. Maybe he flew the entire fight.
Right, yeah.
Maybe he's just into that.
It's a lot of this symbolic clashing of very deadly weaponry is actually symbolic of sexual...
Yeah, it's actually flirting. Yeah. It's measuring dicks.
Remember that you do recall that according to Witten Folly, the throne room scene was the most sexy scene
please don't
in all of
recall.
Star
Oh,
Wars.
please stop.
The
So maybe
throne
it's
womb.
correct. Yeah, the throne womb scene. She said the entire throne room was a womb. And
What?
I don't know. She just calls it a womb. And it signified, well, there was a whole mess of things. That whole mess of symbols, apparently, that were in that scene. But you have to listen to the Witten Folly video to understand them all, or to even know that they're there.
I mean, considering how much effort they put into the choreography, I don't think they put that much symbolism into the actual movie. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit crazy.
The choreography of that scene was just brutal. It was just bad. I don't know.
Disappearing knives, kicking one person and 3 people fall down, going for Kylo's lightsaber instead of his head when it's stuck in the ground.
Oh, yeah, I think the breakdown by Shadowversity did a pretty decent.
Even Robert he did a fantastic one.
Yeah, no, I mean, anyone could look at that and take it apart and go, "Oh dear."
In my first watching, I just looked at the kick. Well, I didn't even notice the disappearing knife, but I just watched the kick. It's like, wait, she kicked one person and they all fell.
That sounds like that. That sounds appropriate.
According to some people, this is a perfect movie.
Perfect movie. No flaws at all.
I totally forgot what we were talking about, guys. I totally forgot what
we're talking about. Ben,
so is it the redemption of the society, like a redemption of the society, people getting what not Ren
That's
Ray and Kylo not getting what they want in the end, but being
right.
redeemed.
Okay, I'm with you. Let's go. I'm gonna lose it again if we don't keep going.
But one thing I wanted to ask though is that whole idea of a society being redeemed by the hero, is that part of the actual text that she read? Is that in the wiki, or is that something she made up?
I'm gonna bet. Okay, the wiki again is like 2 or 3 paragraphs. There's barely
Mom,
anything there.
after all this, do you really think that she pulled it out of a wiki? I think that it's just a lot of shit that has been scribbled onto a page incoherently.
Wait a second. Someone just sent me a super chat, which I don't understand. Kylo clearly has a thing of the DM's GF. No wonder he was killed off in episode 9. I don't know.
That's I think it might be referenced to
D&D.
my last video.
D&D.
Yeah, it's my last video because I called Ray the DM's girlfriend in that one. Because she just finds like mainly because she finds a legendary lightsaber in a bar somewhere. It's like, what does she do? Just crit on her perception. Just since she's a DM's girlfriend, he just gave her this legendary weapon in a bar, in the back room of a bar, right next to like the peanuts and the plastic cups. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Well, let's keep going just in case we lose our place again.
This is the American monomyth.
Wait,
and
what?
Not
It's not the
Campbell's
American monomyth. It's got nothing to do with Star Wars.
She just said they didn't get what they wanted, but they got redeemed.
Let's
they
just
didn't get
go-
what they wanted.
yeah, I wanna hear that
Go back
again.
a little bit. We need to hear her exact terminology for this one.
Redeemed in the end, they do not get what they want. This is why the end of the Skywalker saga has proven to me that this is the American monomyth and not Campbell's monomyth.
What?
Our misunderstanding of redemption and atonement in previous myths has cultural consequences.
Father, I'm sorry for being a bad son.
Take, for instance, how Campbell describes the crucifixion from a mythic perspective rather than a theological one.
Now, for instance, with the crucifixion, if you think of this as a calamity, that is the result of your sins and Adam's sin and all that Jesus had to come down, the Son of the Father, give himself on the cross to death and look sad there in trouble, that's one reading. But when you read it another way, as the zeal of eternity for incarnation in time, which involves the breaking up of the one into the many and the acceptance of the sufferings of the world. St. Augustine says this somewhere, where he says, Jesus went to the cross as a bridegroom to the bride. That's a total transformation of the idea.
Jewett?
Okay, I think I'm kind of getting what they're trying to say. Okay, Jesus on the cross, he did achieve what he wanted to do. He wanted to die for the sins of the people. He wanted to do that so they can redeem the people. So in the end, even though he dies a horrible death, he does succeed and achieve what he wanted to do. He achieves his desire of redeeming the world. So as opposed to that, Kylo and Rey, even though they're terribly written characters, they're barely written at all. But if you want to kind of distinguish,
Yeah, in order to have a terrible
kind of
character,
desire,
you need to write them first.
yeah, that'd be a good first step. But the only sign of kind of desires that we can just identify for either of them is that Kylo Ren wanted to be Darth Vader, or Darth Vader's successor, and Rey wanted to find her parents, or I don't know, find a new family, whatever. They didn't. Actually, you know what? Rey kind of did achieve that. She just decided to go off on her own. Kylo Ren did kind of achieve what he wanted to do. He became powerful. He became the next Darth Vader. He just wasn't happy about it. But in the end, he did get redeemed. But even putting all that aside, if we take Wit and Folly's word as gospel here, and that Rey and Kylo Ren did not achieve what they wanted to achieve, but they got redeemed anyway, how is that distinctly American? How does that distinctly fitting the American monument? Because I have not read the American monument.
Okay, well, yeah. How does Jesus Christ dying on the cross representative
An American monomyth
of he can accumulate the sins of all this past humanity, and he cleanses humanity of whatever sin they've had.
He's all the same.
And it's like, okay, this is a magical god power that no other character in story that I've seen can do. This is some sort of crazy afterlife power that there's no other, to my knowledge, in a story form. Yeah, if you have a magical god being that can redeem a society by dying, that would be a Jesus Christ figure. It's like, yes, true. We don't even see that in like Dune Messiah. We don't see that in other stories where you have Messiah-like characters. So to equate this with suddenly the American monomyth, and only this, I can't think of anything else that like there's a Jesus character that does the same thing. To say that
I think she's trying to use the example of Jesus on the cross as kind of a contrast. Like I think she's using Jesus on the cross as an example of Campbell's monomyth, and how Kylo and Rey ended up in the Star Wars sequels as the American monomyth, and trying to compare them together. But the problem here is I'm not really sure how, because I haven't read the American monomyth or read about it. How is them being redeemed but not getting what they want, as Wittenfolly says, distinctly American? What's so American about that scenario?
But using a character like Jesus Christ in lore or in fiction or whatever is kind of a last resort. It's like, oh, you know what? You have God, and this is what God did, and now you have a monomyth. You're like, wait a second. Is this the God monomyth? What are you doing with the story here, with the story form, that your protagonist has to be an element of God?
Yeah, at this point, you can pretty much make it all these other monomyths at all.
You can do anything, but that's also the other problem with a Mary Sue. She's essentially a god, but not in the context of Jesus Christ. So
yeah,
you're mixing your
make knives there.
I mean, if you're going to go this route, right? Wouldn't Luke Skywalker's route then be the American monomyth? Because he didn't get what he wanted. He thought he did, but he didn't, and he was eventually redeemed. So does that mean Luke Skywalker followed the so-called American monomyth?
Right. I mean,
If you hear anything crashing, I'm trying to balance rubbers on my mic.
Okay. Well,
it's infinitely more entertaining.
There are plenty of stories where characters are created just to die, to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
You hear that in fantasy, science fiction all the time. So it's fine. I get that. But to use that as an example for a myth specific to the American monomyth makes no sense to me. I can't see it. I can't see the connection. So she has to give us another example outside of freaking God to tell us how this works.
And we need another example of the American monomyth. I mean, and because she's trying to say that Rey and Kylo, how their stories ended up is distinctly of the American monomyth. So I need something else to compare it to.
I just read the super chat from Automata. This is perfect. Choice between power and weight. Does she mean an international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids?
Those dirty, conniving communists.
Wanting to take our power and sex. Okay, wait and folly. What's our next card here? We got God. What's the next example?
And Lawrence state that
maybe we'll finally find out who's dead.
Yes.
Yeah, who is dead?
Aside from Jesus,
Is it
obviously.
Jesus?
Obviously, it's Jesus.
My headcanon is that it's Kylo or Ben.
Because he did die.
Yeah, like the only thing I can think of, it's either Luke or it's Kylo.
Yeah. Okay. Wit and Folly should have kept it to the original title. That at least would have made some sense.
Yeah, I think so.
What was the original?
The original title was "The Hero's Journey is Not Complete."
That makes more fucking sense.
It does make more sense. It's actually not a very good title because we're talking about another journey. So
rather than why did they kill him? A possible explanation with no context.
She obviously did not make this video explaining who died or anything like that. She didn't. She just didn't. I don't know why she renamed it this.
Just in literally a span of 30 seconds, tell us who died, why they killed them, and who killed them. Oh look, 30 seconds, done.
And then do the rest of the video giving us a possible explanation as to why and giving us convincing evidence supporting that explanation.
Being a possible explanation isn't an explanation that is possibly true. It's possibly going to be an explanation. Who the fuck knows if it is?
Okay, my headcanon is it's called The Hero's Journey is Not Complete. Let's gonna go forward with that.
I love the
theme
fact
title.
we're creating headcanon for this video.
This is the only way you can get through this. That and alcohol, which unfortunately I don't have any available. I've only got some water.
I think I finished about more than half my flask of water here just to keep my throat. But it's not even dry. I just need something in my body.
I just need something to flush all this shit out of my brain.
Let's see here. Polonic. Never mind. E.C. Khan said this. I don't think this American monomyth is even a thing. As far as what I've heard about the American monomyth, and as far as Wit and Folly has described the American monomyth, I tend to agree. I'm not really sure if it's exactly a thing. It just seems like another variation of Joseph Campbell's monomyth.
Someone made a super chat and retracted the message.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that they do that. That's fine.
What's the point in making a super chat then retracting it almost immediately? Unless it's like an auto detection thing.
It's possible. Yeah, that is possible. YouTube is a very funky thing these days, so who knows what they do. Okay, we got 4 minutes left. We're good. We're good, guys. We can do this.
Human maturation gained through a self-understanding, exertion, and suffering instead of robust freedom and responsibility. These stories promise that super agencies will solve our problems and make us happy. What message do these stories offer to the poor, the defeated, the frustrated, and the disappointed?
I think she just said communism is bad. I think.
This is my response.
I hope so, because if she did,
that made as much sense.
If she did say communism was bad, then this is probably one of the first absolutely distinctly correct things she's actually said.
Jesus died for our sins, and communism is bad. Thank you, Wit and Folly.
I agree. Well done. She does make a good point.
Yeah, Ivan the Mad Vandal's messages seem to be because now he's put another message in there that's just been redrafted.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what the setting I have for chat, so I don't know if that's on my end, or he's doing it, or if it's YouTube's fault. I don't know, Ivan. So, they're coming through. Yeah, here we go.
One.
Yeah.
Ray who died and was reborn through her undead womb.
Oh dear.
Undead womb. Which one? There's like 5 of them.
Yeah, there's so many.
YouTube is really strange about messages.
What happened
though.
to Palpatine? Yeah, maybe it just saw the word womb or something, and it's like, retract.
He was his undead womb? I don't know. Let's not go there.
Wait, maybe Palpatine is transgender.
Wit and Folly is already a Raylo. We don't need to bring in Impreg. Okay.
Whoa.
And maybe Palpatine was actually a woman.
Let's move on.
The myth also has negative consequences to our would-be heroes and heroines in the real world. Pious abnegation and well-devised tongue lashings rarely evoke the miraculous transformations promised by the myth.
Okay.
They are more frequently the source of additional alienation.
This has been your one failure and you can't accept it. You've ordered a human being to be strong. He hasn't obeyed you. Can't you understand, sir? Strength can only come from inner convictions, never from orders.
Be still.
You can't win this fight.
Don't be a fool.
It's true. That's why you hate Fred. Not because he's weaker than you, but because he's stronger.
The myth teaches those seeking to emulate superheroes not to place their cards on the table, not to admit their own emotional needs, and hence always to assume the attitude of the injured servant when thwarted. And I'm afraid this is exactly the problem with the fandom in the West.
In the West.
I thought I was going to say the fandom in Star Wars. No, it's the fandom in the West. What fandom in the West?
Europeans are just fine. The East are great.
Wait, is it the fandoms in the West is in Western fandoms is in a group, or fandoms in the West of like Westerns, or fandom in the... Clarify, please.
Yeah, I'm assuming she means North America.
She's not seen the Eastern fandoms. You know, they have to like take out the same-sex couple kiss for the Eastern fandoms.
If there is even if there is an Eastern fandom, I don't think the movies have been doing very well there.
Yeah, I don't like those movies very much.
Okay, yeah. Apparently, the men of the West and the women of the West, they're no good. But Europe, South Africa, parts of
Well,
Asia.
no, Europe's still like Western.
Well, yeah, but I mean, maybe she means geographically, so it could be like literally.
Geographically, it's still Western.
Yeah, really?
All these things you just said, though, all these things
Are
about
retarded.
stories and characterizations and heroes come rising up to defend a society, or heroes rising up to fend off evil or redeem society, as she says. These are not distinctly American. These have all been more or less elements that kind of occur in almost every story.
In
So
anime.
why does why is this distinctly evil? Because the West does this. That's because all of this she's been building up to is that all the stuff she's been talking about is essentially wrong because that the Western
it's not wrong.
audiences,
It's just
the
nonsense.
American audiences have been, this is the stuff that has been perpetrated in the West. In American, which is why she's been talking about the American monomyth, which she then ended that entire spiel with a sigh and then the words, "This is what's wrong with the fandom in the West." They like stories. That's what's wrong. How dare you like stories and well put together plots and meaningful themes and meaningful morals and powerful moral characters and characters with strong sense of character. You need to be watching movies like The Last Jedi, which is shallow on everything and terribly put together. That's what the problem with the fandom in the West is. They like good movies and good stories. They like quality. They like quality too much, and they ask too many questions.
Okay, well, I'm kind of like feeling my soul being depleted here as we continue.
I can feel the video ending, so maybe we'll finally find out who the fucked up.
Why did they kill him?
And possibly.
We hold ourselves and our stories to an impossible puritanical standard, which is emotionally stunting and devoid of real compassion. The world is messy.
What is going on?
What?
Here?
What did she just
hold
say?
our videos, our content to a perfect standard.
A puritanical standard. No, we don't.
What?
Have you watched movies? Have you watched more than a few movies before? There are plenty. Have you watched an American Psycho? That's
I
not
like
more
Shazam. I'm not going to argue it's a good movie. I don't ask for it to be perfect. It's just enjoyable for me. I like it. It's not good, but I like it.
I don't know what's going on with the imagery. I'm kind of curious with the wedding.
Why is it like Asian families somewhere?
So she says that, she's just arguing that it's wrong that we apparently do. We hold our movies to an impossible puritanical standard. Well, one,
therefore we should hold it to no standard.
No, we really don't. We don't really hold our movies to an impossible puritanical standard unless you. So look at all the movies that include murder that are very, very popular and that are very well acclaimed. We do not hold morals as a universal standard. Your movie must have these sorts of morals. We do have censors and we can't really do certain things, and we do have ratings and stuff. But on the second of all, this is what humanity has done forever. If you're talking about putting in ideals, ideal versions of people, ideal versions of heroes with ideal versions of morals. We've done this forever. I really like the Oliver Stone movie, the Alexander the Great movie, because of Ptolemy saying that, I'm paraphrasing here. He said, did a man such as Alexander exist? Of course not. We idolize him, make him greater than he was. That's what humans have done forever. We idolize our heroes. That's what we do. So it's not distinctly or iconically American. It's just things that humans like to put in their stories.
Yeah.
Great people doing great things.
You can take this multiple ways. You can take this as a puritanical view on how stories must and ought to be told, which I'm sure some people have this one way of looking at things. Like it must have, 3 beats per act. It must have all these other elements that we've seen maybe in historical forms of story writing. But honestly, we just want a decent story we could wrap our brains around, that we can then appreciate the actual elements that aren't related to the mechanics. So great, let's have stories like that.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we don't have this rigorous, stringent standard that must be adhered to, or else it sucks. We just want things to make sense. And if you present us elements that don't make sense, like an equation, 2 plus 2 is 5, we're like, no, it's not. Why did it? And then you have to tell a story about that. And if you don't tell us a story about why this equation makes sense in your fictional world, you're going to have people go, oh, so this it's not supposed to make sense. And then you start deducing why this is the way it is. Maybe it's a mystery. Maybe the next movie is going to reveal. It's like, and it doesn't do that. Oh, this is a shit movie. Oh, okay. So this is the problem that I think, even I'm sure Shiney might argue as well, that subjectivists believe that people who have negative opinions are following some sort of stringent objective standard that nothing can possibly adhere to.
Yep.
And that's not the
Like,
case.
even talked with LiteratureDevil in the interview, plugging again. Yeah, like he said, a lot of people focus on the negativity of objectivity, the idea that we're holding it to some kind of standard, like it's impossible or it's something we shouldn't do. Like, why shouldn't we hold things to a standard? Why should we just let things do whatever the fuck they want and not make sense? Like, a lot of people I've encountered just seem to think that you can only judge something through how you've enjoyed it. It's like, no, you can measure things based on things like plot holes and contrivances and this and that and the other, because we can all agree that these are problems in some way. You can feel however you want about these problems, but they're still problems. Like, by the definition, we can all agree on.
Okay, I'm really curious what this imagery of Chinese marriage family thing is all about. So it's fine. Let's keep going.
People are different and have different experiences, but now we are all connected and can learn about these differences in a way we never could before.
Okay, because of the internet?
Which is why we're showing an Asian family.
Yeah, is it because we're all human and we have this telecommunication thing and we all have cell phones and we communicate really quickly? Is that... I don't... Where did that come from?
Hold on, can you rewind it a little bit? Can I hear it again? I wanna listen to it.
Ourselves and our stories to an impossible puritanical standard, which is emotionally stunted.
Yeah, like a Hadouken, just like, hit the guy with a fireball, just boom.
That was pretty cool.
Chinese drama on Netflix.
Yeah.
I need to watch more of these.
Yeah, they're
Maybe
pretty
this is
cool.
sponsored by Netflix.
You have no idea what the hell's going on, but they're cool. Like, wow.
It's really neat.
I mean, my
And
experience of
devoid of-
anime is pretty much, oh, it looks cool. What's going on?
Yeah, that's fine.
Real compassion. The world is messy. People are different and have different experiences. But now we are all connected and can learn about these differences in a way we never could before.
Okay, so we're just connected. We just are. And
It's all connected.
Hold on,
We're
what-
connected to the ground, which is connected
that-
to you.
How does that point connect to what you just made? That we it's wrong that we have these. Apparently, what we're doing is giving movies an insane puritanical standard, and then now we can connect with each other.
I think it has to do with the West people, that those bad Westerners who are fans of Star Wars can relate to the centrists and the Easterners who are possibly fans of something else. I guess like Asian cinema.
But it's to my understanding that her argument is dictating that we still do this, that we still hold our movies to insane puritanical moral standards. But except now we can connect with each other. So do we connect with each other and still continue to maintain insane puritanical standards?
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
I'm making this shit up on the fly.
This is what is she trying to say?
I don't know what she's trying to say.
These 2 points don't really seem to connect with each other naturally. She needs to connect them so we can see how they go together.
Exploring one's darkness, shadows, traumas, anger, or simple mistakes through metaphor in a story can also help us better understand each other as well. Jewett and Lawrence say,
You know what she
that
sounds
patterns...
like? She sounds like Anita Sarkeesian. It just dawned on me.
No, Anita Sarkeesian is more.
She's far more shrill. I think she's more shrill.
Anita Sarkeesian does not have like the voice editing software.
No, she's terrible. But hold on. So is she now arguing that? So is the whole point is this, because this point makes more sense. Okay, so if I'm correct, this point makes more sense. So she's saying that we have put together movies, and as Americans, the Westerners, or whatever she said, not the Americans anymore, it's the Westerners now, that we have made movies with insane moral puritanical standards. Okay, so she's arguing against that. That oh look, those evil Westerners are putting together movies with all these insane moral puritanical standards, but the world is actually dark and more real, etc., and so forth. So what we need, she arguing that what we need to be doing is movies and stories that explore darkness and the poor and the downtrodden a little bit more, explore all these
Isn't
things.
that
Because
what a lot of stories do anyway?
if she's making that point,
Hopefully.
then I'll be very disappointed because we have
Oliver
already done
Twist?
that. We have already done that. There are countless movies and books and novels and novels and TV shows and all kinds of media. Just if you boil it down to just American media that has done all of that.
Yeah, there wasn't such a thing as this book called Oliver Twist. It didn't explore anything about the poor.
The constant themes that we look for in stories are usually these seedy underbellies that you can express these feelings that you would not get in, let's say, I don't know, high corporate America settings where it's all blue collar crimes or what have you. We like the nitty gritty. We like the dirty.
Yeah.
The downtrodden.
We like it. We like both. We like to see the ideal romanticism, and we like to see stories that uphold our ideal romanticism of heroes, and we like to see the realistic, gritty stuff too. It's different appeals, but they're both appealing. So, but this is insane because this is the only way I can see this line of argumentation making sense, is if she thinks that we only produce movies and media of insanely high moral standards, and that we are forgetting about the other people, the downtrodden, the poor. Because if she's making this argument, that's absolutely insane.
I hope she's not saying that, because again, these are very highfalutin concepts she's talking about. And you're like, what exactly is she saying? We still don't know. And we're 15 minutes and 30 seconds in, and we still don't know what the topic of who killed who was.
Who died? Who was it that died?
Yeah.
That they have established in their research illustrate to them a sort of mythic dissonance in the United States.
Okay, I'm quite sure she invented that term, mythic dissonance.
I'm pretty sure too.
Yeah.
I've never heard that term. I'm pretty sure she makes up a lot of stuff. Which is why I like Wit and Folly. Like
we love you, Wit and Folly.
I don't know what she's going to come up with next. I don't know what sort of ambiguous, weird term out of nowhere.
It's always a gamble with her. We're like, wow, what's going to happen?
I need a bingo.
I always have a lot of fun. I always have a lot of fun watching Wit and Folly.
Yeah, this is way more colorful than a Patrick Willems. Patrick Willems is like plot holes, but she's like, look at the.
At least you can actually get angry at his arguments. There's actually arguments you can attack in Patrick Willems video.
But you see, Wit and Folly is not a critic. She's not making arguments. Really. She's making
got it.
Art or something.
she's a creator, so you can't.
She's a creator.
The modern art of YouTube. Fuck modern art.
Whereas popular myths might be expected to sustain the leading ideals and institutions of a culture, the American monomyth consistently undermines the democratic ethos.
What? How? Who? Which stories? What are you talking about? This is like
American monomyths constantly undermines the democratic ethos.
That's like saying the Americans who love democracy and the republic and freedom and expressions are actually counteracting these institutions and these ideals. Okay, explain, ma'am. I'd like to know what you're talking about there.
So what can heal?
Wait, what? No, you don't just say that. You don't just stop. You make a declaration. Hey, you know that American mythos? It's bad. So, let's change the topic.
Other than an individual with great power or an institution great in numbers.
Yeah, Ray has a lot of great power.
And she's against democracy.
No, the Palpatine is the Senate, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
He is democracy.
I am democracy.
I am democracy. Not yet.
But after I rise these ships out of the ground sky things, I will destroy all planets. Okay.
My Death Star destroyers.
I can't believe that's a thing. I still can't.
Like I said to this again, my friend who absolutely loves the movie. I said Death Star destroyers. You don't have a problem with this. He's like, no, it seems completely reasonable to me. It's like Death Star destroyers. There's a fleet of these fucking things.
2 minutes left, guys. We got this. We can. No alcohol. We're still good. All right.
Love.
Love.
It's always been love.
No, don't quote who I think she's gonna quote.
It's the oldest story in the book.
You might need to rewind because I think I'm about to sync again.
All right.
Consistently undermines the democratic ethos. So what can heal, other than an individual with great power or an institution great in numbers? Well, love. It's always been love. It's the oldest story in the book. I
don't know. I think war is pretty healing. You just sort of eliminate the opposition. No one's there to oppose you, and you can do whatever you like.
Infantile love, but love learned. Love learned through
Stop showing
compassion,
Kylo and
understanding.
Rey when saying love.
Murderer, psychopath, scared girl.
Love. Perfect couple. Blank slate and blank slate.
Yeah, well, mystery box, dice, and whoever the hell she is, I don't know yet. I don't think she knows.
Conflict and acceptance despite. To love someone despite. That love is more powerful than any army of Jedi.
Wait a second. What are we talking about here?
That love is more powerful than an army
of Jedi.
I don't know. I think an army of Jedi are pretty freaking powerful.
Okay, just lady, go and just read what you've just said. Love, a non-physical element that is not in this world, it is purely in something we feel, is more powerful than something that has a physical presence on this plane of reality. It's like saying love can overpower a tank.
Love conquers all.
I don't know. I think I'd want to be sitting in that tank with them holding hands.
Love will save us. It's like, from the big giant Death Star thing. Okay, yeah, no.
Bail Organa was just sitting on Alderaan with his wife and just like, oh, love will save us as the laser just comes down from space.
I don't know, that lightsaber that Rey had was pretty powerful, so.
I wonder, if Rey was on Alderaan, could she deflect the Death Star laser?
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Just like lightsaber, just sit up there. Don't worry, guys, I've got this.
Maybe not the first time, but then they would have fired a second time, and then we totally would have stopped it, yeah. Like the first one would have...
First time, the power would go into her. The second time, she would deflect it.
There you go. That is... So, I love this guy on Automata. I don't know about what he says. He just cracks me up. Have you forgotten that love is a battlefield? There's actually an anime called that, so... Oh, that's good. I don't know. You got some funny guys in chat today. Either that or I'm drunk on
chat's
water.
Always the best.
Yeah, no, they're pretty good. I mean, they're having a funnier time than we are because we're desperately trying to get it through this video. Okay.
I don't know. I'm having a fun time talking about anything in this video. Last minute.
And a love story is essentially a hero's journey. That's why love stories
No,
are
it
the
isn't.
most popular.
A love story is not a hero's journey. Just so you guys know, there's no correlation between.
You can have like a love in a hero journey,
Sure.
but they're different things.
Yeah,
Like a
but-
love story is generally like two people
Yeah.
loving each other. The hero's journey is a completely separate
Yeah,
thing.
you're talking about a genre, and then you're talking about a template of understanding of a story form. They're very different elements, so I don't know how they come together.
Popular stories in the world.
What was the editing?
Love
The
story.
history of Lucas's...
Kick Kick boy in face. What a
It's
great
not
love
really
story.
a hero's journey,
like,
though.
playgrounds these days, like definitely.
Find boy you like, kick him in face.
That shows that you love them.
Yes.
Another drama also on Netflix.
I know. I like that fireball marriage ceremony. I don't know what that was about, but I think the Chinese have some really fun ideas towards romance. It's just very violent.
His relationship with this myth is also messy and full of contradictions. The story has never been told by one person.
Yeah, George
or
Lucas
one
is definitely full of contradictions. I mean, he's constantly said that he's inspired by different things for certain things, which, like, as he said, like, America was a heavy inspiration for the Empire, and he's also said, like, and so was Nazi Germany, so was the British Empire. Like, he pretty much just brings up almost anything just for his own, like, political.
Well, when you're talking about a world as big as Star Wars and trying to create every single detail, I'm sure you're inspired by all sorts of things.
Oh no, like he said that. I think he said something like along the lines, "The Emperor is like George Bush" or something.
Oh, really? What?
I don't know. Something. I don't know American politics.
In the prequels,
like something like that.
In the prequels, he said the emperor was George Bush.
Well, yeah, I hope so, because George Bush wasn't really relevant in the 80s and 70s. So, unless he knew the governor of Texas at the time, but okay.
Group of
I just
people,
remember something like that.
and there has never been a consistent plan. But there
was a plan. I don't know how consistent it was, but it was pretty.
There was a plan.
Yeah, there was a plan. I mean, he
planned to have a plan.
Yeah, no, he really wanted to organize his story in the Buck Rogers style. He wanted to in media res, but as a whole. So episode 4 as opposed to episode 1. So yeah, it was
In the
planned
poster,
out.
Luke is really buff.
I know. Leia is pretty also looking really good there too. So
yeah, definitely.
There has been a thread of a myth running from the first film all the way to the most recent episode of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
The myth is still there, but the saga...
What
as
is
of
the
its
myth?
That's a good question. What is the myth?
What is the myth?
Is the monomyth still American monomyth? Which monomyth are we talking about?
knows?
1 minute left, guys. 1 minute.
That was my response to this entire video. Who the fuck knows about anything anymore?
Just 1 minute left. We're gonna find out who died, who killed him, and
what's the fucking myth?
and the myth of whatever Star Wars is.
The myth that has continued from the first episode to the latest episode of The Mandalorian are fucking apparently.
And is inconsistent with it. I personally do not want our mainstream stories to continue to reflect the American monomyth. They do not provide good...
I don't think they do. I think she's really obscuring what the American monomyth is. And
So I'm still not convinced the American monomyth is a thing.
yeah, I think it's more of an outcry of people observing the media from the 40s to the 70s and going, huh, we got a lot of...
Oh, just get past the 50 seconds. Just 50 seconds, please. My brain hurts enough.
As I was saying, I think it's just an outcry or observations of media from the Americas, comic books, TV shows, movies, and that's America produced, because it's all from Hollywood. It's all popularized there. Same with popular music, etc. So I think that's all it is, and they sort of say, hey, there's a pattern here, which is loosely is the same as Joseph Campbell. I think that's about it.
Enduring lessons, in my opinion. I want the creator...
In my opinion, there we go.
Not as soon as you say in your opinion, none of it means fucking anything anymore.
Well,
it's all opinion and subjective. It's not something that's actually you can measure. It's not something you can argue anymore. As soon as you say it's just my opinion.
But apparently American monomyth is a thing, and it's been used so much in episode 9 that no one knows what the hell she's talking about.
45 seconds. Come on, just 45.
Of these big epic stories to take risks and tell a story for themselves and for their loved ones.
What is she? Who's telling?
Okay, she was then
Like Force Awakens, right?
Her argument then was that. So she was arguing that the American monomyth has been causing American and Western movies, or whatever she said, to be all universally made with these insane puritanical moral standards, and that none of them have ever explored the more like down to earth, gritty elements of the world. So
Batman.
Apparently, that's what she was saying then this whole time. Mm-hmm.
I think.
I thought she was saying that the sequels weren't original enough. I was like, yeah, I mean, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, go over all the plot elements that are very similar to the original trilogy.
Not the fans. And some may say that the Skywalker saga is not over. Disney won't let it be. But they did. They killed off the...
Well, the Skywalker saga was already over. Disney just thought, oh, fuck it, let's just add some more in there. Make it all the Skywalker saga. Why not? Even though the sequels have nothing to do with the Skywalker.
Last Skywalker. That's what they believed the end of the Skywalker saga meant. The end of the Skywalker bloodline.
That's it?
So why the person who died?
We don't know who the fuck died. After all this fucking thing, we don't know who the fuck died, who fucking killed them, and there's no kind of fucking explanation. For what the fuck.
So I'm guessing the person that she said died is going to be Skywalker, but as a family.
I guess.
All this is fucking nothing. All of this, I've just smacked my mic. But all this fucking everything. That's
Witten Folly, man. Witten Folly's amazing. She says all these things, and you sit there going, "Wow." It's just this kaleidoscope of ideas. And you just
okay. If I use my deductive logic, I'm just going to turn to Batman for 5 seconds. I'm assuming that what she meant was that they killed Kylo because they killed him because that was the end of the Skywalker lineage. Am I following that correctly?
And they used the American monomyth to do
monomyth to kill him.
I think.
What they killed him with the American monomyth.
As far as I learned from Witten Folly, the American monomyth is American because it ends with the main characters not getting what they want, but being redeemed.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm quite sure if I ever do, which I probably never will, read the American monolith, it won't be specifically how she described it. I think there's a lot more nuance to the concept of American exceptionalism or the media from the 40s to the 70s and how that translated to the attitude of America coming out of the Cold War, entering the 80s and 90s as we saw all kinds of different forms of media come out. So it's very obscure to make sense of this in that context because
I thought the American monomyth, from at least where you described it, was something like G.I. Joe or Superman or Captain America. It's like America.
Yeah. No, if you look at the rest of the paragraphs from this quote I have, they talk about Star Trek a lot. They talk about the sorrows of young Werther. Sorry, that's Goeth's. Helter Skelter from Beatles, while Charles Manson was inspired by it, and other such pop culture references that I'm not entirely sure. The terminology is very strange because you're talking about things like pseudo-empiricism and things that are, pop. Was it pop or gum? Pop gum? Sorry, I can't think of the word here. Bubblegum or pop. Saccharine type media, which has no substance to it. It's just sort of this fun, exciting thing. And I think they're equating that to what is popular. It's just this popcorn eating, munching sort of audience that eats it up and say, oh yeah, this is good. This is America. We're learning about ethics and morals. Here are our heroes. They're shining beacons and they're all gold and red, blue, and whatever colors of the flag. So I go. I really should read this to make sense of it, but I don't think it's relevant. I really don't think this is going to help me as a critic. I don't think it's going to help me.
I don't think that I don't think it actually was the American monomyth that she was talking about. Like you said, it just doesn't, like, none of it's fucking American.
There's
None of
nothing
it's
about
specific
it.
to America.
Nothing is specifically American about anything she described, unless it's like the communist over the looming threat of communism.
Well,
That's the only thing that was distinctly
what's
American.
interesting about these authors is they published more books in 2002 and 2003, and one of them was Captain America and the Crusade Against Evil: The Dilemma of Zealous Nationalism, and the other one is The Myth of the American Superhero. So they're looking at superheroes specifically as this form of the American book, the comic book, saying, aha, this is what Americanism is. And we see that in our very obvious icons, which are Captain America and Superman and Batman, etc.
What about Superman Red Son?
Well, that was an Elseworlds
Would
comic.
that be a communist? Well,
Right.
would it be a communist?
Yeah,
monolith?
exactly. That would still be the same idea, just reversed. So it's no longer about America; it's about their main enemy. So it'd be the same concepts, which is actually a great story. I actually read it; it's pretty good. So that is what
They're getting animated.
That is what it should. Yeah, exactly. That is what it should have been, a discussion about politically, culturally, not a community in a harmonious paradise is threatened by evil. Normal institutions fall or fail to contend with this threat. Blah blah blah.
Something about love, and then something about the myth in the Mandalorian, and something about whatever. Then something about Raylo. I think maybe there was a Force dyad in there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it was a funny, fun little exercise to go through Wit and Folly again. Not as bizarre or as focused
the 5 wombs
as the sexual interpretation that she had of The Last Jedi. I don't know how you get that. Yeah, it's always obscure to me. But if you can see American exceptionalism in Episode 9, I've got to ask, what are you trying? Like, from what depths do you have to pull to make sense of a bad movie?
Something at your ass.
They go to the deepest depths, and then they keep going every single time, and these defenses.
I don't know. It's very obscure, and I don't like this constant, taking a new lens. But this time the lens is bad. You're like, why is it bad? You seem to have liked Last Jedi for all kinds of reasons, except the reasons that are relevant to the story.
Themes and symbolism.
But America is bad is therefore movie bad? Like, really? That's odd. So yeah, I think she might have just changed that title for the fun of it, because I can't make any sense of it. But even that, the original title, The Hero's Journey is Not Complete, I don't think American monomyth completed it. I don't think it even makes sense of it. So, okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. That was Wit and Folly.
Well, that's fantastic.
That was, it's always a delight of some kind of mental exercise for people to listen and interpret. And her fans love her. So pay her a little visit. Say thanks for the video. You're awesome.
Just how many fans does she have?
Oh, check out her comments. The comments in that video are amazing. It's just the glowing responses, absolute adoration.
I think you know how much of the world's population is retarded. Oh, well, she only has like 2K.
No, that's fine. It just have to be a popular channel. It's just the people who respond specifically to that video just love it. So whatever she's doing is working. So keep on going, Wit and Folly. We love to watch your stuff. And thanks to LiteratureDevil for coming back. We appreciate it.
How long do you think she spent on that?
Oh, a
video?
lot. That was at least a week.
At least a week.
Oh, at least, yeah. All the editing, sound clips.
It's pretty clear she puts a lot of work in these videos.
Oh, yeah. Compared, someone in the chat, this is like when we first started LiteratureDevil, wanted us to do the latest or the most recent Lava Chan stuff. So
what has he done?
I don't know. I haven't paid attention. He must be busy. So we're gonna check that out. That's Sheep in the Box, I believe.
Yeah, Sheep in the Box.
Yeah. So we're gonna go peruse that, and maybe we'll have another video for you guys either on the weekend or next week.
Maybe I'll blow my brains out.
Oh, Lava Chan's really good. He's fantastic. You know exactly where he's coming from, and
does he make a fucking argument at least?
Oh yeah, he makes an argument. I don't know if it's very entertaining, but it's just so funny that you gotta see it to believe it. And well,
at least you're watching fucking movies wrong.
Yeah,
is an argument,
right?
There's something you can say about that than abstractly taking out a fucking monomyth.
People do have negative reactions to Wit and Folly. This is understandable because very hard to.
I wonder why.
Very hard to wrap your brain around. But we do appreciate Wit and Folly. Please continue. And everyone else, have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.